Welcome back to the SCL. Our Swiss stage is officially concluded here, Dallas. We've worked through our 3 weeks, make it 4, just a little bit of extra on top, and now we're heading
Right.
into the LCQ. My name's Infernos, joined here by Mick, aka Dallas, as you've heard, and it's UCF Academy facing off against Full Sail Armada to see which team moves on and which team, unfortunately, is forced to bow out.
Yeah, definitely a big hitter match here, considering, looking at the likelihood of an entire program making it through compared to what would be a secondary team for a program making it through. And obviously, UCF as an entire school, they're just looking for titles, whether or not it be by their academy or their primary team. They don't really care how it gets done so long as a job meets its conclusion. And knowing that you have two teams running into it, you get to this particular awkward circumstance where hey, you could get a really good game where an academy team or a secondary and a primary team are facing off because they know each other just to such a perfect degree. But obviously, we want to see the diversity of schools. We want to see programs going through. So Armada obviously has a lot on the line riding, considering how closely this match is seeded in the first place. But better yet, what's on the line for them just knowing that it's a single elim.
I mean, there's a lot on the line, right? It's for the season, for this semester of the SEL, and there will be a lot of
Right.
changes when it comes to the next semester as well. There's going to be a big, I think, stream coming up about that and a lot of big announcements for it as well. So make sure to stay
Yeah.
tuned to that and to our socials that we'll talk a little bit more about that afterwards, as well as just a little bit beforehand. But before then, when you've got the 7 seed facing off against the test seed, you expect this to be a fairly close matchup. And knowing how good UCF Academy is and where we've seen Full Sail Armada shine, I think this will absolutely go to all 3 maps if we're lucky. And if we're unlucky, I at least think we'll see an OT on one of them. Let's go ahead and check out the maps we're heading into. I
Of
think you were a
course.
little excited hearing about it when we're heading into this one. I try to keep my
Mm.
eyes as much as possible away from it, but I was hearing a little bit of glimpses of excitement in your voice when we were chatting beforehand.
That's if we get around to the map number 3. I always love seeing Lotus being thrown into the pool, but knowing that even then we're still going to be seeing a 3-site map just guaranteed right off the rip out of Haven. I love seeing what teams can really accomplish on the 3-site maps. Usually Haven is something they kind of like to leave there for the later stages, kind of go ahead, make sure to go to something a little more traditional, because Lotus does have that gimmick where every single wall feels like it's made out of paper, just easily penetrable with the Odin. Even though we don't see that really exercise much, the potential is still there in case you want to throw a curveball into the wind. But knowing since going to be Nat number 2, it feels like it's been a while, awkwardly enough, since we've seen Ascent. We see the
Yeah.
teams just want to play this so much, but it's at the point now where I feel like we've had enough developed stages where we should see some level of diversity. Maybe you see a different agent selection, or better yet, just see this game just feel a little bit more fresh to what we're typically used to, knowing all the changes that have been kind of popping about since.
Yeah, especially with the fact that most teams haven't really opted to change things up throughout the entire season. Even when we did
Right.
see glimpses of that last season towards the end, especially at LAN, we were talking about that Oklahoma matchup. And I don't know why I'm blanking on it. It's one of your favorite teams. I'm blanking on.
The one thing I can think of was what is it, Bremen Parker in Oklahoma
That's
in the
it.
grand
I wanted
finals.
to say BGU, but that was not correct. Bruton
Yeah.
Parker College. Thank you. They had a different lineup for Ascent, and we didn't see that throughout the entirety of the season. And I would like to see changes on Ascent a lot sooner than say something you're saving towards the end, because you're in that territory now where it is
Yeah.
make it or break it. If you lose, you are out and you are done for the semester, and you want to move on for as long as possible because you want those points, that seeding, that
Oh
extra
my
little bit of a
god. Oh my
ticket punch
god.
value to
Oh my
get your
god. I
team
love
into
you.
the LAN, as Dallas is losing his mind as Full Sail have locked in an ISO for the double duelist composition alongside Jet.
I love you. I
I
love you,
love
Full
this.
Sail. Oh my god. This is something that we do not get to see much of. Not only the implementation of the Clove, which I feel like we've seen some teams want to sprinkle in there every now and again when it comes around to Icebox and the professional level, but the ISO coming in as well. We saw this character. We've seen that kind of era he had where before the changes are, at least during his first wave of changes, he was utterly disgusting. That was during the
Yeah.
off season for Collegiate, so we didn't get to see too much of it actually be implemented in the Collegiate scene. But I just wanted that chance to see more ISO. I wanted to see those domain expansions occur on screen and see those 1v1 duels and get the free shield afterwards if we do see the ISO coming out on top. But knowing that this is going to be a little bit more of a tempo centric kind of play style coming out of from Full Sail, to be a lot more kind of strategic, a lot more just kind of tempo oriented, hoping these players start to overextend, hoping these skills start coming their way, but they still have the potential out of that breach. They still have the flank watch when it comes around to that cipher, and they still have so much just burst potential comparative to maybe an Omen out of that Clove. And knowing that even then, if you die, knowing how tight, knowing how compressed these sites are when it comes around to Haven, those smokes are not going to be going anywhere. You have the nice connection between A and B to allow your team to overextend between these tunnels and these connections if need be, but even then more so when it comes around to actually pushing on those sites, you can press them down exactly like a Brim Smoke and still get that kind of burst utility out of it. So I think this is an outstanding pick from Full Sail. UCF, I mean, obviously, I'm not talking about it much, but it's the typical thing we're used to seeing when it comes over to Haven, so you can't really freak out too much about it. It's tried and true. We've seen it work 100 times over, and it's not really worth changing at this stage of the game. But I love Full Sail. You mentioned the kind of curveballs being thrown out there, the crazy picks that are going to be coming through. And for a map number 1 here at the very start of playoffs, there's no better chance I could really ask for.
You want to see some sort of variation. You want to see some sort of evolution of play, and an agent selection like this is exactly what you want to see stepping into a make it or break it territory. UCF Academy were teasing the ISO and Arena actually as their double duelist, but opted instead to go towards more of the standard, saying, hey, we're higher seeded in the first place. We know that we can take the victory here. Let's go ahead and play to our strengths. Let's not try to fall victim to what Full Sail bring to the table. And let's play to each of our own. As some first shots, as the first battle seemingly does go down towards bottom mid, as a player off towards B. It's Benzie taking a huge lick of damage and will be forced to fall back with no damage tagged back the other way. And UCF Academy with all the success gained from forcing Benzie back towards Link on the A side and start to take that pressure. But Benzie hits a sick shot. Now the pressure is on to head in from the secondary. Link step goes down as Sora finding a second victim. Kyra wanting to deal with Sora, but denied of doing so. And it's a 3K for your Jet of UCF Academy. Dev Hauer, you've got to pull out your own pizzazz, and it's shut down as quickly as you try to do so.
Asura opening things up with a definition purely of what the Duelist needs to be doing. Not only just going ahead and getting into the site and taking those fights one-on-one, but better yet being in a 1v3 scenario right off the rip. Going to the back of the site, understand that I'm on an island, but so long as my team has me, we're all good. And the only kill that Asura didn't find was the one from Frosties. Covering Benzie, about to go on that around the bend, try to find that kill and just get the wrap on that player, especially the overhill in play, because I knew immediately when those hits went off, it wasn't that big of a deal for the likes of a Clove. But even then, obviously Full Sail has to keep their eyes out. Knowing that Jet's already warmed up, knowing that Jet's here to play, getting a very strong start. That's a swarm to work with later in terms of the nines, but already still you're seeing players drop relatively early with Ghost already finding that first blood. So a good exchange here, finding that first blood towards the middle of the map, over towards that A side hell. You see the players making that transition and making the rotation, and UCF is perfectly aware of this. Understand that something preemptive may be coming out, and they can choose whether to get that plant down.
That's where you have that breach, though. The setup for some concussive blastings towards sites. This is where Ghost has to go crazy. As your Sentinel, the soft arm defense. Fortunately, no kill found, but does hear players stepping through the Cypher cage, and Ghost will need to very quickly escape with Cloud going in perfectly. A toil to save the day, though. Bulldog for 2, a flawless possible round for UCF Academy, but Kairu finally does enough to net their first kill, but it's hardly a knee scraped for UCF Academy. They'll still come in very strong for round 3, and they'll have really solid weapons here, Daz, because they engage so heavily in round 2 with rifles instead of SMGs to prep for this next third.
I'd love to see Kairu in a game of Overwatch, especially after that first pick. You see the little tiny micro flick. It's like, is this man doing 3,000 micro flicks, or is he just actually tracing? And it's just one of those instinctive things. But already, I mean, a good start here from UCF. I mean, it's just what you're typically used to. Already standard kind of layouts, but just a great set of arsenal and tools to be working with on the side of Full Sail. While they don't have the full potential of what we would expect to hit this kind of round, it's going to be enough to get the job done. But at this kind of stage in the game, when you see the Bulldog in play for UCF, all those Vandals there to work with as well, off the back of winning that round with so many Sheriffs in hand, it essentially feels like a totally equal round that UCF could definitely make quick work of, so long as they find themselves some first bloods. And that is not going to be something crazy to say or even crazy to see, consider that we've already seen them do those successfully on so many occasions in this game, or at least, the opening too. They've done it so successfully that you can't just, really think that they're not going to do it again.
Zef doesn't get out of there in time, and unfortunately takes a huge lick of damage in the process. Tries to step in towards Sight, shut down by Azura, who finds 2 now. Defending the player, holding on to Spike. Netting UCF Academy now control over the objective in a post-plant scenario with Full Sail down a player. Needs to retake. Variation in height was perfectly played from UCF, but unfortunately, Devhauer has something to say about it. Ups this down to an even man. Asura still has to decide whether they want to drop off completely off square, if they want to try to go for the fight, and they'll do so. 1v1. Benzie, control of the objective and the overheal, giving them 150 HP despite the damage that's ticked. Ghost They now notice that the spike's been hit to hell.
See you in a
He
minute.
stepped out and back in just due time
No charges.
and gives Full Sail a 3rd round win.
That's insane of a call to come out there from Ghost. Going ahead, stepping inside the smoke and still getting those shots off just immediately. The fact you don't do at least a little bit of preemptive tagging to still elude that idea that you may be outside, you can still wrap around somewhere. It's that lockdown at that point where Benzie knows that this is the trade. This is the point to push and make that kill because I already got to do at least half. So a little bit of an unfortunate circumstance there from UCF, but a good circumstance from the viewer's perspective, knowing that we're getting that 2-1 standard lineup. It's going to be a very expensive one for both sides, but UCF aren't really scratching
This goes
about it,
here.
consider that they didn't have to spend too much money in that second round. And even then, they found so many players dead just off the hands of those sheriffs. But with the Blade Storm coming through, I mentioned it earlier that 4K was going to come into play relatively quickly, as we already see it coming out in round 4 right now. So looking for a little bit of pressure. Obviously going to use that jet to kind of lead the charge, see if there's any weapons to be dropped in the process, and can use that maybe as a, you know, pass down to one of the players further on in that line. But as we do see a bit of a funnel coming over towards the A side, that Cypher is going to get that exchange. It's going to understand that there are players around this A side who do a very quick rotate. Who's going to be ready for it? Possibly nobody. Lennon's already shut down, but Kyru can get the trade here for something. Just can't amount to.
He working out from Hall. The Bulldog just can't up a Vandal, and a Toil comes away with the frag instead. So much impact found off of Azura, closing that gap with the tailwind instantaneously. And even though they had that 1 kill towards lower, doesn't seem like Full Sail have found a way to punch their ticket in towards this A site as the post-plant scenario is on. Zap will swing wide. Big LMG in hand. With the assistance from Deathhour, they even the odds. Bag sent into hell where they were lying. And it's only one player. Frosty's remaining, holding towards lower. Takes down Zeph. Deathhour's flashed and too scared to step forward. Frosty just has to play this for time as the club tries to buy some safety and fails. It's UCF Academy tying things, extending their lead up to 3.
Yeah, just an awkward situation there from Full Sail. I mean, just trying to get that last pick off, trying to see just whether or not that player's going to make the peak. It's unfortunate that right there, Sura used that tailwind to go ahead and back up off that instead of playing a little more aggressively with it to see if you could get that crossover. Just find that 50-50. Go over to the other side and commit yourself to that fight, because you know there's no way of anybody that a breach is going to let that thing just go through for free. So, I mean, looking at the circumstances, seeing what was divvied out to them, just not much you can play with. But one thing you can play with right now is another Blade Storm, at least on the side of Full Sail now, coming out relatively early, right off the rip, pushing up to the A site. You do have the coverage there to go ahead and knock out any kind of darts to let you know or expose you as a team. But speaking of teams, they're pushing up very soon. Meeting up in a matchup here, can't really find the shots on the first 2 players here in the Blade Storm, but you at least get the third and keep things even with nothing but ghosts and pistols in hand to go ahead and knock out the next couple. UCF at least wants to make sure they hold on to the rest of these guys.
How do you miss the player? No, finally pinged out for Full Sail. Your Omen on UCF Academy, that has been wrapping all the way up through mid and now in towards Link. And the pressure can be felt as Benzie's up on staircase, gets tagged by the paranoia. Back goes for the finisher, but Zev had a chance and squanders it. Only Yelena, who's able to collect a Vandal in a main, is still standing. And it's an easy spot for the remaining players on UCF Academy. A 3 versus 3, Full Sail would keep it close. A 3v1, it seems like was too much for the odds. Up to 4 now, UCF.
Yeah, and even, I mean, consider if you kill Bag, you don't have anybody going up to heaven to kind of keep eyes on the flank that's coming around. You could have seen possibly Yelena go ahead and amount themselves to maybe 1-2 off that, and that could have been the round possibly with that Vandal in hand, because anything's possible. But one thing right now is we got to look at Full Sail, really try to find themselves a rebound. Look for a way to get back in this game. With 3 ultimates on the board, you can get an early just kind of isolation with the ISO. Find maybe that 1 pick right off strip, and even then, if you're showing yourself up off the get-go, there you go. 1v1 versus Ghost. Kyru wanting to play on that left side. See where this guy's going to be scattered about. Had the shield and does get the refresh. A bit awkward, but it's managed nonetheless. So immediate advantage towards the side of Full Sail. A little bit of damage done over towards that Omen as well. So things are looking pretty good for him.
Crazy thing about ISO is no matter what, you're getting a pip at the end of it. You lose, you die. If you win, you get kill. A lot of value to be had for it. And Full Sail, now with that player advantage defensively, we'll try to take and claim that space. Kyru's all the way up in through mid window, has taken majority of A main. Now doesn't know this for sure just yet. Is able to spot Azura and even steps wider to see if they can get one more. And with Benzie watching the crossfire, it's a 2-piece combo now for the defensive Full Sail. Only UCF Academy with 2. And they are trying to claim that space towards C with Spike, but the flashes from
player
Garage, the
standing.
damage from Garage, and the shots that will always connect. It is an easy, flawless round for Full Sail.
I mean, that rebound I talked about, they just made sure to check that box in flying colors. Able to go ahead, only use one of the ultimates in the process, knowing they still got 2 more on reserve. 2 very impactful ones at that. I mean, obviously having a player back up on the retake at a Benzie, knowing those shots are going through, knowing that's your top fragger of the team, that's already good looks because they're sharing that stat line with 2 other players, but also having that narrow depth available. I mean, Yelena hasn't really been the most impactful player in the game thus far, but having the information accessible early, playing around someone else, obviously that breach as we see right now towards that C site, looking to possibly get some shots here, have some players expose something up, but UCF, I don't think they're going to be the kind of team to get this up pretty easily. Already looking for these early bloods, trying to get those shots. They do exactly that. And here comes the resurrection, trying to get that second win into play.
Well, just standing still and holding down the click, but can only find a single. But that's instantaneous value for UCF Academy. They're hoping that they can find a little bit more with that edge if they can get that Ares back under control. No one for Full Sail will decide to peek this. They're going to hold back, save graces, and play for a frag on the entry from UCF. Maybe a refrag afterwards if it is required. As back goes into a 1v1 off towards A Link, and either side truly gets an advantage out of the back of it. Zeph's ready for a flash or more to send back towards B main's entrance. Trying to capitalize on a possible frag here for Death Power. Stun goes forward the other way. UCF Academy are using a lot of utility here, but they're finding little to no value in this eco round as Frosties is the only player to find a frag in this post. And Full Sail have no problem closing out the 3 individuals trying to prowl up and take space on B.
Great way to get themselves on the exchange in that last round with the flawless, but knowing they preserved a lot of money, they want to go into that second one and really just try to hold on to the bank, and that's exactly what they managed to do. The majority of their players still staying alive, not really overinvesting in these ultimates, using a 1x1x1, understand that you will get these back, depending on who you're dealing with. The ISO, it's not that expensive to get it, so go ahead, pop that thing, find yourself the early blood, even in the Blade Storm being invested early by Trevor is also a good look. But I mean, seeing everything else from UCF, this is probably going to be the round where they kind of go for the all hands on deck approach. Want to pop a couple ultimates back to back to back if they do find themselves at least 1 man down relatively early. And I mean, there's the 2 different kind of philosophies of thinking, but I'm loving to see what Full Sail's doing. Spreading them out, being a lot more tempo, not really overextending yourself, staying calm, composed, and just looking for your trades.
Shock darted, not too bad. His teammates not too worried about it. Harp on him too much. Frosties will get that spike down, and now Full Sailors step in for a post-plant scenario on the A side. UCF Academy will be very wary of the fact that Rolling Thunder could come through, but both sides straight out until 1 for 1, and UCF Academy come out entirely on top in the process. Send theirs first, get it off, give you a second of a breather, and use that to take down as many players as possible in front of you. Now only Zap remaining, and they'll only find that 1 wraparound Sentinel up through B Link. It's just as good as you can ask for UCF Academy to take that A site and hold that post plant nearly flawlessly.
Right, I mean, just seeing what they're doing, I mean, just good looks for them. When they get that spike down, they just look like a completely different animal. I mean, obviously, the one time we saw a bit of a loophole, and that was the 1v1, and it ended up becoming 2 rounds prior. But, I mean, it was that 1 round loss that we saw on round number 3, where they kind of put them in a bad spot going forward. But looking at things now, we're starting to see Full Sail iron themselves out, getting the operator into play, seeing a judge coming through. Everybody's trying to get their hands on deck and at least contribute one way or another, knowing that they don't have all the ultimates in the world and just really buff out any problems that come their way. But UCF, these are the guys you got to look out for, seeing what they're going to amount to. And it's not going to be much knowing an operator's in the middle of the map, because that's not something you get a chance to peek again, because, well, you already ran away with your life once. Last thing you want to do is put it on the line again.
Bags waiting for the dark cover to be sent up towards heaven, and a paranoia to be sent off towards hell in half of Hall. And he doesn't get the exact impact they were asking for. Not only does Benzie get first blood, but Death Power is able to knock off yet another player on the approach from UCF Academy. It means there's not a 100% safety net, and the dark cover that's up in heaven will eventually dissipate, giving that advantage for top ground back over to Full Sail, who already have that player advantage. They'll lock Yelena off the board, though. Zaf closing the distance, only had a judge, of course, to do so. The ISO regaining their shield and almost carries them, but Kairu can't get the third flick. The Overwatch aim training just didn't pan out there, Dallas, and UCF Academy will climb to a 3-round disparage.
So close, but yet no cigar. We see these 1v1s. We see these just entire situations unraveling to where it just comes down to a singular player on either side, and that's at least the game you want to see. You'll see these players going ahead, making it dirty, making it these goods exchange that you just want to have out of your guys, and it's good to see that Full Sail are bringing that, but they got to find themselves in scenarios where they're not losing too many players for essentially nothing. And sure, you could amount to some of that to UCF just understand the angles. Even then, we saw Yelena able to go ahead and take a good couple shots up there towards heaven and didn't even get seen. Was just taking damage for essentially nothing. Big damage. Just out very early with Ghost sitting towards the middle of the map. Understanding that there's another player there.
Oh my
and the comms don't come through to let you know that Jen is pushed up.
It's a major problem glaring for UCF Academy. They just give up 2 frags instantaneously, and a third one follows suit on attempting to refrag. There's no value here for UCF Academy. You've given them weapons. That's 4 guns dropped now in middle control. In every attempt you have to step forward, you're lacking the utility to clear that. A toil. No shock darts trying to burn away the possible tripwire. You're dusted, and now Frosties is forced to be flanked from both sides. Kairu with the finisher. Full Sail with a big comeback in a round. Need to close out the remainder of these 2 Dallas to try to even out this half in a 6-6 split. But UCF will have to do everything they can to deny that, and the eco this round doesn't look so pretty to be capable of doing so.
No, and even then seeing how the last round had just really unfolded, I mean, it was just beautiful attempts there from Full Sail. I mean, we saw the early aggression. Problem is, like I said, it was a lapse of comms I want to feel because you lost that second player towards the middle of the courtyard. And I mean, when you understand, you say, okay, I died to Jet and Window off a Sheriff. There's 2 players there, and you just completely neglect
distractions.
The fact that there's somebody else nearby. But with no ultimate coming through from the ISO, no 1v1, we still see one over towards A side. The problem is, going ahead and breaking out the knife, understand that there should be someone else nearby, but just isn't really prepared for it. Kyra with an insane shot swinging out to A. These guys aren't letting them touch this site. It is just absolute no-through until finally the 2 remaining players are about to have retrieved
the cage
trigger. Ghost has been having a very tumultuous half, so to say, on the sentinel role of rapping. Be punished by their doppelganger of Yelena. Cypher on Cypher will not matter. Yelena is ulted, and Frosty says, I want the 7th. We let you take us down on the approach, but we will win this round. And they'll take themselves up to 7 for a 7-4 split, and the best you can ask for Full Sail is a 7-5 at half.
I mean, it gets to that point, man, where you see it right here. I mean, these 2 teams and how close they are, just not only in the actual seedings, but the ideas, the philosophies, just the genius behind the game, understanding that this is a circumstance where it is at that point where this is a determining round. It's very close to the end. We're not sure what economy is going to look like going forward. We're not going to be able to afford everything in the world, and even then, our Jets will be relying on a Blade Storm and handing something else over to somebody else. But, or at least I thought that was going to be the case, considering that we still see a purchase of somebody. There it is. Able to go ahead and whip things out. Understand that there is a lot at stake there, and then the 2 ultimates coming through. Just understanding this, especially in UCF, understanding that you have more to work with. You may not have men to work with, and they keep on getting knocked down like this. A very quick pick once again from Rasura, pushing through that B side. Understand that this is where they went off on round 1. So it feels like a bit of a home ground, considering that you're just pushing spot like nobody's business.
Sir was able to collect that rifle from the first blood, and though they missed their blades, it goes the same way for Yelena, who can't win their shots and gets taken down eventually. A 3 versus 4 with Full Sail defensively now having control over the B site, but the post plant setup has been correctly displaced for UCF Academy, and with that Hunter's Fury online, there's not much more you can ask for except for some pristine headshot clicks, and Devhauer's Blade Storm does it for 1. Frosty's isolating 1 as a 12 steps forward. Vinci ults, and there's your moment, Devhauer. The Blade Storm comes up tremendously, and there's just enough time for the defuse. It's Full Sail just barely eking out a 7-5 split.
And even using the resurrection, the second win, just to get that defuse off, you think that the roles would be traded off at that point, saying, Jet, you're the one who's not going to die in the process. But just understand that it's such a dire circumstance. Getting it literally that second off that last kill, understanding how important that situation is. The shot calls are just amazing out of Full Sail right now. But honestly, just the shots from UCF are a little bit better. But that's the two things isolating these two squads against each other. We saw the 30 out of Full Sail. We see the philosophy. We see the game plan unraveling and looking amazing when it really comes into the point where you can put the spotlight on it. But when there's too much going on and too much blood to be shed, UCF always seems to be the ones to just start to rise up from that pool.
Now you've got that little bit of a micro battle. The big battles have ended for that first half, Dallas. We've stepped back over to those tiny whims of contention in the early stages of these pistols and eco rounds. It's the first blood, though, for UCF Academy defensively. A double swing held towards lower. Get a little bit too overzealous there, Full Sail, and you will pay that price. This bag once more after theirs. He won't get much, and now Ghost is alone on the C site, trapped just behind the Radiant stack. Their tripwire now destroyed, but getting through unscathed and finding one more also on the target. Zeph, your teammates have swung to their deaths. What are you to do besides rotate elsewhere and pray UCF Academy don't see right through you?
Yeah, I mean, there's just not much to work with here, but I mean, it could be enough depending on what Zeph can really start to manage here. Maybe get that spike down. Does have the fault line to play with, but that's just going to be enough for at least a post plan. When does a bit of classic in hand, you're going to be going for more kind of short range plays, pushing up that spawn up through A main, hoping to get a right click off towards somebody because you do not want to be facing up against this window. The stun coming through the fault line on the defensive side, already going ahead and shut the guy off. He is just absolutely snitched right now. I mean, there is no chance to give this man a breathing second, but they're going to at least wait for reinforcements or going ahead and try to amount to something. But one player down, another player being low, it's Asura who's going to be swinging first, trying to manage that, which I'm surprised you don't use Frosties as a little bit of a body bait there just to guarantee the trade. But, I mean, hey, it worked out for him in the end.
You get the value, though, right? I mean, you get the credits for putting the spike down. Your job is done, Zeph. The problem was your teammates weren't finding the same lap of luxury, the same success early to really give your team a shot. You lose first blood, you lose the second. Yes, you're refragged bag, but you just left Ghost alone on site for too long, and they found their kill and even got damage off to another one. Feels like Full Sail's attack just needs a little bit more mindful utility usage, especially for an early round, just to be a whole lot more, I would say, careful about how they choose to engage this. So Zura will be the first person I'm looking towards, Dallas. Because they're trapped off towards Cubby, and there it is. There's the first blood off towards Kairu. Can't get a barrier up in time.
Yeah, love Bolby, but I mean, come on, bro. You got to get the memo. That's the Zura we're talking about. First blood man out here, without a doubt. But seeing really what's left here on the board, not really much to really happen on that side of the map. So seeing really what's going on there, it seems like there could be a transition to that side, but as it stands right now, it's nothing but just blood being shed inside the garage. A sheriff to be picked up and possibly tossed over to another teammate, but looking at the rest of Full Sail and what they're trying to make do in this situation, the B site, I don't know, man. I like the idea of trying to play close there, but understand that now that there is a judge in play on the field, you got to get in and get out almost instantaneously. And the slower you play this game, the more so you're just lurking about the water, just waiting for them to catch you.
Yeah, Power waiting for the jump peek by her toil, sees it, but can't get the shot off. It's that jump peek intel you're looking for. Or back to the old CS days when Big got into their major and it's abusing a giant jump bug. That Valve eventually said, yeah, sure, we'll allow it.
One enemy remaining.
That's not the case here. It's
left.
UCF Academy just slaughter on site. Zura getting 4 of the 5 needed to make it flawless. And they'll do it so very well for UCF Academy to take the first and now second round of the second half.
Yeah, Sura's just really feeling it. I mean, this game also, you could surmount it a little bit to a bit of a decipher difference. I mean, considering that you do steal in able to go ahead and at least contribute in this game. I mean, I'm happy to see the ultimate usage in the later stage, kind of making sure to find that round whenever it means most. But I mean, seeing the difference in terms of what's being happening here. I mean, the 3-11 to the 7-11, the 2 assists to the 6. I mean, even then, if you're not talking about kills alone, you got to look at the assists. It just feels like there's not as much kind of emphasis with the rest of the team there. When you're on that defense, you can't really give them too much flack. Just considering that, I mean, you were playing with the breach. You're not in a position or with a duo that's really going to amount to much when it comes around to those nitty-gritty gunfights. But talking about those gunfights, it will happen a lot. Whether it happens towards main inside that lane or whether it happens on site is still to be determined. But as it stands right now, we do see a lot of players already allocating, understand the rotations coming through because Full Sail is wasting no time letting it be known that this is where they're going.
So you have that rupture to try to give yourself some space. Still correctly waiting things
Oh
out,
my
and in the
God.
process of doing so, they have their double pivot into sight. Flawless execution of 3 in UCF Academy on the most retakeable objective in all of Valorant, decided to hold static on sight. Now you're down to 2 players, one of them with an operator. You can't extend this, Dallas.
Oh, heck no. You are sitting back. You're watching the fireworks. You're seeing if somebody runs back towards spawn whenever that spike goes up. But considering the kind of guns that you're working with are right now, I think Full Sail, just go ahead and play it safe. All 5 members, you already see the Cypher stationed towards the back of the map, making sure nobody goes on a flank here to go ahead and kind of catch those off guard toward the attacker side spawn, and see what everybody on the side of Full Sail is going to do. So they're just going to go ahead and reconvene back there. Don't want to lose any guns, understanding that there is an operator on the field. They heard it earlier. They saw the shot. It was missed. That's the one thing Asura isn't warmed up on. Give the guy a Sheriff, a Vandal, any of those kinds of guns where you can just spray and pray, or you're in those kind of close to mid-range combats, and he's got that box checked. When it comes to that operator, there is a bit of a learning curve, and there's also a bit of a mental shit that has to be taking place that we just don't see really in the game yet. And that also arises another concern here for UCF. That retake isn't going to be nearly as impactful considering what we've seen Asura do. You're going to be stuck with that operator. You're not really going to have anything kind of there as a backup unless you are opting to kind of save a Sheriff there to play with. But even then, you have such an expensive gun in your back pocket. There's going to be that kind of conscious hesitation that's always lingering about, which I feel like is going to hold Asura back from maybe looking the same of what we're typically used to seeing.
Whether or not that value will be found, time will tell, and Asura really hopes that their aggression on that jet and their ability to tailwind out of that danger will assist them. Ghost goes for a very wide jump peek. Maybe didn't need to be as greedy as they were, but in the process of doing so, gives a lot of information to Bag, who fails to find a kill, despite having the chance for 2 in front of them. It's
one
Ghost
enemy
show,
remaining.
though. A toil there to assist. Now 2 each. And the only loss of life was back up forward in front for UCF Academy. Besides that, the seaside has been locked down with no test for Full Sail to work with. Ghost and a toil buddy ace their way through this round and will climb back once again, making that last victory for Full Sail not matter, as the difference will still fall back to 4.
Such a common angle being held there that you can't really just hide and hug against that wall and just creep up as low as you want, because that barrel will extend. We even saw it against Kyru being stuck in that area, which even in the audible from that shield was enough to go ahead and give it away as well. But I mean, knowing what's going on towards the seaside, you lose 3 players off the rip, just things are going to collapse right in front of you, and just not much you can really get out of it. But seeing that you didn't have that garage control relatively early as well when trying to make that push, it's just one big funnel coming through. And when you look at the kind of players and the kind of agents that are here on the side of UCF, you do not want to be messing around with that. But speaking of messing and missing, here it is once more. Asura not able to really land a shot early on, but it's okay. The Toil's on the other side of the map, able to go ahead and cover that first blood for him.
Kyra will get the ult orb when that small little micro battle, Dallas, when it comes to the ult economy off towards C1. No one's pressuring, though, just shocking for Ghost. With that frag off to Zeph, and how far Zeph was forward, they'll feel it necessary to pop that neural theft and get some information to help the rest of the team out, and where they maybe need to transition to alleviate any of the possible concerns, as Benzi caught on the try to step away from Central B, pays the price from a Toil's gun, and Yelena fails to try to clap it back despite their window presence going unnoticed for a bit too long. That dark cover saves a lot of space for UCF Academy. And you only got 2 players, Dallas, for Full Sail on the attack. Do you opt to save these Vandals? Do you play for maybe 1 or 2 frags? It seems maybe a bit too odd of a choice now to try to extend it towards a site when you know it's going to be a 4 versus 2, especially when it's not an objective. You don't feel that you have the best saving graces or maybe the best chances on in the first place. The bubble barrier will go up for Kyru. Both will step in towards garage. Extension now in towards site. Kyru's barrier is going to quickly dissipate unless they find a kill, and they do. Ghost maybe extends a bit too soon. Pays that price.
God!
The operator won't matter if Kyru's got their shields up. Thankfully, Bag and a Twirl are there, but that was way too close for comfort.
Dude, Kyru was feeling it. I could see it. I could sense it. I mean, the belief was radiating off of this man. I mean, going ahead, nailing every shot. Say, you know what? I trust you to cover my body, because by the time I come out of this ultimate, I'm winning that fight. It's a 2v1 easy take. Problem is, you still got to consider the time. There's a bit of a window that happens inside of that ultimate where you have to go ahead and wait for those barriers to drop. And those are precious seconds that you're letting Yelena kind of be alone on that site. Not only just fitting for themselves, but also better yet, trying to get that plant off. That's not a gecko plant going up. That's not a wee man doing that job. There is no gun coverage there. It is going to be just a one-on-one that you are left out to dry on. And guess what? You don't even have your gun to play with. So it's a bit unfortunate, but I mean, I see the vision. I respect every single aspect of it, but it's just not really feasible in that situation. I think Full Sail understand this. They want to start taking their time a little bit more so. They want to start feeling out this game. I mean, things are looking close, but it's not exactly impossible. With the 2 ultimates in hand, that ISO ultimate didn't go off. So it's still a really useful resource if you can manage to find yourself maybe a first blood, but they're not going to want to use that stuff right now. They're going to probably go for that rolling thunder, just kind of play off that if they get themselves into a post-plant scenario, and then save that ISO ultimate for a round later to find themselves a free pick. And then guess what? Best case scenario, you're looking at 8-11 then. And honestly, you should have some more ultimates accumulated by then where you're not really concerned with the result because things are that much closer that you kind of will up that belief once more.
Oh, 6-11 is a split that's not looking so pretty for Full Sail. You know, they were already struggling in the first half when things started to go a little bit too far the other way. They made it so it was almost a 6-6. They get their 7-5 in the last round, just barely. Since then, it has been a UCF Academy straight. We like to harp on having an eco-round timeout. I don't imagine that Full Sail, even with the ultimates they have on board, will have the best chances possible. Maybe Cairo, yes, with a Vandal, could hope to strip one player off from sight with their domain expansion, as you call it here, Dallas. Love to see if that's domain expansion, I'm going to die, or domain expansion, we get a chance to step in towards sight. Because Cairo is the only player here that Vandal is so far forward with a chance to do something. They'll strip away a player off towards Link. That's your breach. That's huge if they can win this kill, but Frosties gets the upper hand. That's a Vandal that's dropped for your cloak to pick it up on the extension forward. But that's too little of an impact. And now UCF Academy have 4 players to deal with the 2 you're extending in towards sight. Yelena's doing their own ghost impersonation of that soft arm in through B main, and they're the only person to find a kill in an eventual 1v4 that ends with their demise and no more kills to their name.
Yeah, just an unfortunate situation there from Full Sail. I mean, even then, and the fact that you're picking off the breach, you mentioned, I mean, it's really impactful to get the breach there, but there was no ultimate to work with. There's no rolling thunder retaliation. You want to go ahead and shoot that thing out a little bit further towards the edge. Make sure that's one less player on the site, guarantees the rest of your team can press that go button, overwhelm one player, and then by the time the other guy gets spawned back in, that's just another player that you essentially just find for free because you know their exact location. So I feel like it's a bit of a missed timing there, but honestly, Kairu, I can't really blame the guy considering that, I mean, looking at his stat line, seeing the kind of plays he's been making over the course of this match, he just wants to find kills, just wants to get them as soon as possible, really just wants to set the tone early on, but that's just not something that's always going to be fun for your squad, especially when you see players peeking out towards mid, seeing operators, and speaking of missed opportunities, it is Sura now with 3 operator shots, completely whiffed to find themselves a first blood. No worries for them at least, because the rest of the team is here, but doesn't find the first blood this time around, which is looking good.
Zitral just think they're still covered there. Devour just counters them completely off guard. Now having that top count control, do you have that call? Has it been made? They're trying to pick the upper side, but Devour could go completely unnoticed if it wasn't for that Vinci knocks down everybody stepping from Hall anyways. You may be at match point, UCF Academy, for this first map of the series, but Full Sail still want to be actively involved on the map of Haven, and they'll net their 7th round win in the hopeful spring to have a comeback to find, well, a whole lot more DAS 5 to send us into OT.
Well, while they're involved in the scoreboard a little bit, one thing they didn't make much impact on is in the pockets of these UCF players. I mean, you do see Asura opting for that Stinger, but that's just an optional choice here. You're going for the Blade Storm, you're playing long range with that, and you're running that Stinger right now because you don't know if there's going to be another circumstance to do it. And I love seeing these kind of opportunities. You don't see very many teams really opt for these kinds of things until it gets to that 12-12 or 11-12, and they get desperate, and they say, I just have to press this button now. You're going to lock that stuff down early. Sir, I talked about getting aggressive, getting there early, and finding those early ticks. It's just not going to come out. The Rolling Thunder is something that does, though. Flushing players off that seaside, giving it so much real estate, and we see the Jet matchup being won by Full Sail. So this is good looks for him, but the problem is
last player standing.
The Hunter's Fury is finding so much value, finding 2 kills, finding all the assists, but it's Kairu hopefully having a dream and having the shots behind it, but just one half the equation isn't there.
Talk about a toil and Ghost. We talked about what last week, Dallas? The 2 players that were just locking down the B side on every single one of the 3 maps we saw. Like, this is the dynamic duo. This is the dynamic duo. That was 5 rounds for a toil and Ghost. to single-handedly carry their team in that
Right.
map as a whole. It was on attack and on defense, but especially so on the defense when it came to that last round. Ghost is completely hit by that Rolling Thunder, the only player to be hit by that Rolling Thunder, and yet with the utility that was sent out by the rest of the team, they were able to get off of sight, stay alive, and look what damage was done from the failures of Full Sail to extend forward and get that kill. They get 2 kills. A toil pops in for a Hunter's Fury to make matters even worse. And you're now down to a 4v1. And it's just too much for Cairo to overcome and try to climb back in any sort of direction. Very good map for UCF Academy. They're the higher seed for a reason. They showed that on Haven, but will that come true as we step over to the map of Valorant as it heads over to Ascent Dallas?
I'm hoping possibly because I mean, obviously, Full Sail. I mean, seeing a composition like that. I just want to put it on the record out there for you, FSA. Do not beat yourselves up. That comp worked
It was good.
tremendously. It's just not really the team that you can be putting it up against. And even then, just a shot. I think if Linda picks up a couple more kills there and is kind of just consistent right off the rip, and even then, if an unfortunate first round doesn't come your way where a Surf finds 4, then I mean, I think that game is completely different. We find ourselves in an overtime, but it's just these certain circumstances every here and there that add up over the course of time. Which I mean, at the end of the day, you got to win every single round. You got to win as many as possible right off the rip. But another surprising thing to see though was, I mean, UCF. You talk about that dynamic duo, but I mean, honestly, it didn't even feel like a Toil and Ghost for like kind of those two players. It felt like UCF everybody was so independently strong that whenever we
Yeah.
saw that disconnect, it was just because of the fact that they were so concerned about themselves mainly. Talking about the comms, how you said there was a circumstance where players just kind of talked away, not really do anything. Talked about that push on that thrifty round when you had just pushing right up middle. You find a kill on Cypher, Jets there in courtyard, and just saying, well, if I'm dead, he is too. Just not really giving that information away. I mean, UCF, this is a squad where it's not the highest of highs and the lows of lows for them, but the lows are glaring enough to be like, okay, well, if it's not something that big, yet still extremely noticeable from our end, that means you get a good squad on your hands. And I'm excited to see what they do in this second map.
Yeah, I think Elena was a better attacking Rap Cypher and attacking Rapping Sentinel than maybe Ghost was on their attack, but
Right.
defensively, there just was no comparison. Ghost knew prioritizing their life. They knew when to swing. They knew how to swing. They were a lot more successful at their swings. Even if you're watching, you don't see very much of a difference. The impact afterwards was the big difference. And Ghost just outplayed that, played their role to a T, and that's why you see that defense go so swimmingly for UCF Academy, along with everybody else just firing at all cylinders, working together so well as a team. They mesh well, but can they mesh up into the Psy City of Ascent? We'll have to see after a quick little break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back to see if map 2 pans out the way UCF Academy what, or if we'll see a map 3 at the end of the day. Maybe Academy is in the name, Dallas, because they just schooled Full Sail Armada 13-7 on the map of Haven. Was it that bad? I don't actually think it was, but you can't miss out on the opportunity for a quick pun there. It's Ascent, though. This is the map everybody knows, and it's where good teams go to die. If this was where Full Sail Armada are hoping to get their win, it's their best chance to do so.
Yeah, this is the map. I mean, speaking of Academy, and I mean, once again, another pun. This is the one place where you study the most because, I mean, that's all that's really left to it. You can't look at the metas too much. You can't look at the shifts and agent selections. You can't look at anything too crazy or diverse off the kind of what you see the kind of status quo being, just because we see so many teams do the same thing. And even then, you mentioned it alluded back to the Bruton Park or Oklahoma game that we saw grand finals last year. That wasn't even much of a switch up. It was a KJ to a Cypher, not the craziest thing in the world, and something that's still very much applicable. But if anybody could do it, I mean, still, quite frankly, I think it could be Full Sail. Seeing what they brought inside of Haven, it felt so good. It was beautiful to watch. It was an entertaining spectacle. But even then, it was just the shots that were missing every here and there. Realistically, as I mentioned, that game, even though it ended up being 13-7, 13-8, whatever it may have been in terms of that range of not being a double digit, it very much could have been easily an 11-11 by the time we got to those later stages, just off a couple first round hiccups. So slowing things down, pressing the brakes here for Full Sail. Don't freak out about it. Play your game, but just don't let rounds just kind of fall out of nowhere. Especially don't let players go off because we saw Asura. We've seen the slowdown now with the operator pick. So that could work into the favor a little bit of Full Sail, knowing that, well, maybe that transition, maybe that ideology of being on the operator, it's not going to have too much of a chance to warm up if you don't let it.
Yeah, I think there's this kind of false narrative as well that maybe we need to shut down UCF Academy having momentum, right? But I don't think that it was ever really the case on the map of Haven.
Yeah.
I think Full Sail Armada could have had that game in their hands the entire time. It was up to them to win it, and unfortunately, it just slipped through their fingertips. It's not a matter about keeping UCF Academy away from getting those 2, 3, 4 rounds in a row. It's just winning the rounds you're supposed to win, which was obviously a big problem for them. We do see an obvious switch up has been made. It's not the omen for controller that's coming out from Full Sail. They really want to make sure they stick on to that clove, having that ability to have those post-death or afterlife smokes to be able to cut down sight lines, having that overheal, the chance to quickly come back to life and get that deep fuse that we saw was so darn good in that first half on round 5. They really want to bring it out here once again. And with a player sub in as well to have Kill Will now over to that KO, I think there's going to be a lot of utility value here. It's just going to come down to what are these duelists going to look like as Asura once again teases that Reyna and maybe wants to do something different, but Full Sail will lock in their full 5 here.
Yeah, and seeing what Full Sail is providing, I mean, even then, it does definitely deviate from the status quo enough to really pique my interest. I mean, obviously, bringing the Clove in instead of the Omen, I liked seeing the Clove earlier, but even then, we have different kind of variations of these players. Instead, we obviously, as you mentioned, have Kill Will in, stepping out for Yelena. I mean, even in that last map, we always said, I mean, obviously, no ill will towards any player, but just the performance wasn't there. And even then, when you see a drastic change, not only in the player, but the position going from a sentinel onto an initiator, there's a lot more responsibilities at hand. And knowing Ascent and knowing this map and knowing that everybody else knows it, well, there's so much more to really just kind of factor in that things just have to feel more natural. But one thing I do like seeing even then more so, Kyrie stepping off of the ISO, now back onto the Jet, looking to kind of play more of that traditional duelist role that we're expecting out of the singular player. Steph going for the breach, going onto the Sova. That's an initiator transition that, I mean, it's just kind of typical. But everybody else over on the side of UCF, I mean, it's essentially the same map to a certain degree. You swap your breach for your Sova, and you basically have the same top.
KJ is up for UCF Academy. That's something different, right? You don't always see nothing but ciphers now on the map of Ascent. It does feel like it's one of those maps, again, where you can have either that KJ or that cipher. Any other Sentinel doesn't really seem to fit and fulfill that role where you would like it on this map. Back, post, or, pre, I should say, KO days, when we didn't really have KO be put into play, you could technically even see both of those. There's kind of this weird state of mind where you had that Sova. They thought the initiation role was done. The KO, this is where Frosty's, who was already so good last map for UCF Academy, is going to fall into a little bit more of a supplemental role, a whole lot less active for the team on that initiation. And when you have both initiators who are very passive and really just prowling for information as their main point and main emphasis, UCF Academy may be a little bit more slower in terms of their play style on the attack, and it'll be a whole lot more mindful on their defense, especially if they want to try to have Ghost be as impactful as they were on that last map, where they were that end-all be-all alongside a Coil, felt like, on on that C site, especially in that last round. As the defense for Full Sail gets first blood, but it's quickly fragged back, and Ghost finds the team maybe a chance to swing into sight if it wasn't for Delta with the crossfire.
It's also a really important player too. I mean, sorry, you're shutting down that player that got the 4K in that last pistol round when it came around to it. But even then, off the back of it, you're getting so much damage done. 4 players alive, Ghost literally on a single HP. Same thing with Kill Will, which is even more frosty. Excuse me. Already going ahead, getting those shots in. Players scattered about out in the open, and what do you know? It's a clean house coming out here for Full Sail, finding themselves not a flawless round, but it's a pistol round nonetheless, and that's something they need after they lacked the last 2 in that last map. So good looks for them. Getting on the board early, finding yourself a lead. Let's see what they start to do with it, because we didn't see them in that circumstance in the last game.
Delta Zeph, players needed to step up for Full Sail, and they'll do so quite nicely. We'll have to see what their buys will go forward, and they'll have the advantage swinging into round 2. Looks like a whole bunch of Guardians.
Ooh.
We did see UCF Academy in the first half on their attack, fought Bulldogs and a Vandal on their bonus, I should say, their second round.
Yes.
Looks like Full Sail will go for something as expensive. They'll go for the Guardians for that extra bit of range and extension. They'll have one Bulldog in Kairu's hands, and even an Ares for Zeph off towards B. Doesn't have that same wall bang potential, which is why you're more likely not going to have them still a little bit further back. They're on top of the Radiant stack of all things even. They want to try to make sure they have as many saving graces as possibly could. And they even get a frag off of a very greedy extension early from your Jets. That's the only impact you find, and it's quickly taken in return and a weapon handed over by only a Classic needing to get it.
I mean, you got to have more sense of that. I mean, understand, you got the first one, get out then. I mean, last thing you need to do is, I mean, understand the ideology. You keep on going. I got a Bulldog. I got to trade things out. But I mean, keep in mind, that's a Bulldog being handed over. That's some damage being done by Frosties. And that's just biggest thing still, a Bulldog being handed over. That thing can drop, another player can pick it up. It's not even back in a place where your teams can recover. Maybe a player on the sheriff made it flop, but even then, swapping things out, players are being exchanged. Still, obviously, Full Sail out on top. But it's only by a singular individual.
One enemy
Things
remaining.
are still a little bit too close for comfort.
Spike down,
As
B.
Zeph being on a singular shot, and Bag could get the roundabout, understanding the difference in health, saying that Soba gets shot first, then maybe we shift over to Delta. No, just take the shots there. And somehow Devour didn't get the memo!
30 seconds left.
The team's making no call out. Devour never even
One
shot the
enemy
left
remaining.
side
Dude,
of
no
their
shot.
smoke out of
I'm gonna leave.
markets. Bag has been gifted the only chance possible to provide an upset for UCF Academy in round 2. 15 seconds left. Off cover to cut off the left doorway. Timing needs to be perfect from Delta, and it's the Valorant timing that plays against Bag. But the damage has been done, Dallas. You dropped 3 Guardians. And on top of that, every chance to can't claim that Ares to save even more credits was thrown out the window. Devhauer, how do you not spot Bag when you extend out from market? That's going to really hurt Full Sail's impact and momentum going into round 3 and beyond.
Speaking of replays, obviously we got one here. Riot, I would love to have those kind of data available because I'd like to see how much damage that Bulldog did after being acquiesced by UCF Academy. Because still, lots of damage done by lots of players there, just making those kills just kind of start to accumulate really easily. I mean, it wasn't just a one-man does everything type of ordeal, but I mean, already in the 1v1, you see it already going ahead and creating a butterfly effect right here in this round. Things not looking too hot already. Now the man advantage going to the side of UCF Academy. Not the best guns for Full Sail, but these sheriffs have been putting in work in the series thus far, and I don't expect it to end at least right now.
UCF Academy now with site control. No, the Full Sail don't have very much to work with, but they'll buy their time, play this smart, and take down Kill Will's extension from Market. And then Kairu has to be there as well. Easy round for UCF Academy, only losing 2 on this step forward. That means they'll be able to bring up the rifles needed for those players that were dropped in Full Sail. Even with the loss in the win in the round prior, don't have enough money for the entire team to do everything with full armor because they need Zeph with the Odin. They need the kit for your controller of Devhauer. You just gotta say, hey, let's try to save credits where we can. Now it's into the ball court of Kairu, who will spend every last credit they have here, Dallas, to make sure they are full prep for the team to hold out on this defense.
Yeah, just, I mean, a really important situation there for your duelist being at the bottom of the board right now. It's on defense, so you're not beating yourself up too much about it, because, I mean, a duelist, you're either playing for the retakes or you're working for the first bloods, and it's a 50-50 that you have to flip the coin off at the very start of every single round, depending on where these players often end up going. So as we see it right now, let's head towards B. Let's see what we can get done over here on the side of UCF Academy. We want to start things off aggressively. They've done it relatively successfully so far. But the one thing that's not going to be there is a defense to really meet him. It is a singular player out of that Sova just going and trying to hold things down. Shove the guy back to the boathouse. The rest of the team, we're here to provide support, buddy, but I'm not sure how much. They're just flying, firing through smokes to get somehow the foul. They're able to go ahead and take them out one.
Neural theft to try to get some intel on the players now in a post plant on side. Mark if there's anyone still lacking behind. Bag is. This is where that lockdown placed behind the Radiant stack will buy some space for UCF Academy. As you do, in fact, use your From the Shadows to get back into the objective. This is well played. Delta, very wary of the fact that Bag should still be back towards B main and just doesn't know it. You know a player stashed in towards Cyberfrost is at least clean for the kill, and Toil will not lose their gunfight. Devhauer, a 1v4 needs to come up clutch, but the time just isn't there, and the life isn't there either. You get one on top, but it's icing for UCF Academy. They'll go 2-2 to top.
Ever since we saw UCF get these Vandals in their hand, they have just been a different beast to deal with. And now seeing nothing but sheriffs in the hands once again, these Full Sail players, they're not going to slow down anytime soon. This is one of these situations where I mentioned it earlier, when you have that lead, you really just got to nail that thing down and drive it home. But we haven't seen Full Sail get that wake-up opportunity to really get that ball rolling. So now sitting in a 2-2, having the eco on your side, this is a situation where Full Sail, they had the lead to work with at the very start of this game. That was the first lead we've seen in the series from them. And they just couldn't manage to keep it, but there's still an element of surprise. There's still time to go ahead and find recovery. There's still a chance to get it back, but it's got to be in this round specifically. And honestly, if Devour can find this flank, that could be the perfect way to put some icing on the cake and really get that ball rolling once again. That's the momentum you need. But Kairu swinging out to 4 players, that's not the move you want to be making.
And it looks like they want to extend in towards side as fast as possible. One thing UCF Academy have on their attack that makes it so much easier to take B side and now A side is that paranoia. They have an extra flash and a distance flash as well. Short side, technically. I won't make Dallas too mad with that one, but they act as if it's a flash
right here
to make sure they have safe space on site and can make sure that those walkways are 100% theirs. And to make matters worse, in a post plant, the KJ is going to be infinitely more valuable with the nanoswarm down on spike as well as in walkways than a Cypher would be with a trap wire set up on the rotates in. Full Sail, though, ignoring a lot of the dangers that could be there. They knocked out every single player out of UCF Academy except for Bag, who had their chance, but weren't able to do anything. If it wasn't for the null command going out, could no utility to work with. It was pure gun up, and to make matters worse, Devhauer revived themselves forward and made that an effective 2v1 that was just unwinnable for you.
Thrifty.
I mean, such an early ultimate, you really can't just go ahead and put that thing to waste. I mean, understandably, get it out there, play it, make sure you consider that round, because obviously finding yourself a Thrifty, that's a damn good look going into this next round. So, I mean, just I'm happy to see it. Full Sail, I mentioned it earlier, not letting things really get a hold of them. By themselves, it's the second Thrifty inside this series so far, and on the round where I thought they were in a really bad spot, all things considered. I mean, you expect the read coming out of UCF. You get the push on the site, it's essentially given to you for free. You hear shots coming in there from trees, so you know that at least a player's there. You saw a player extend, so I mean, worst case, somebody's back towards heaven. Well, the turret gave you the snitch. You already saw, once again, a server backed up to go ahead and take care of that flank player. You have essentially every single guy except for one accounted for, and you end up losing that thing with Vandals in your hand. A little bit awkward, to say the least, but, I mean, that's just the power of Full Sail, getting this thing done. But still, UCF, they have plenty of money, they got plenty of time, and they got the potential to go ahead and win this thing out once more with the 3 ultimates in hand. With the plays from already in Missouri getting 1, probably not going to get much out of this with the Hunter's Fury finding that kill, but it's a good trade. Even better for UCF to be really landing this main advantage pretty early on with this fight going down.
Great call out as well to say, hey, there's a player down sitting towards Pixel. We need that clear from the Hunter's Sphere and the final shot getting there. Uneven 3 versus 3 with the frag coming forward, but now you have to refrag it back. Bag gets 1 kill.
Wow.
Now Delta to join in. Single player. No command from UCF Academy, still keeping them suppressed and making this a fair gunfight if it wasn't for the fact that Zeph can't get anything else.
Weapon here.
The Toil. No more. Full Sail will go back. They were losing 2 in a row. That was what tied things into 2-2. But Dallas, since the rifles were so good for UCF, Full Sail says we want a piece of that pie. They'll climb to 4-2.
Thing is, they don't even need the rifles to do that. Full Sail has had themselves more Thrifties in this series by far. They've made more round impacts and kind of just detrimental plays to the economy in those Thrifty rounds. And I feel like we've seen, just out of the average of all their rifle rounds combined, And that lets you know, once again, how I said, this team, once blood starts getting shed and we see just an absolute dog pile of players just being thrown on top of each other, UCF always is kind of has the muscle mass there to just kind of arise from that. But whenever it comes around to smart, picking players off one by one, and just really playing the game to a meticulous level, Wholesale always comes out on top there. You swing one by one like we see right now. UCF, when they don't have that overwhelming presence, just completely ram into their opposition. Well, you see a much
one enemy remaining
that you're looking at right now.
Academy is just a round where you don't really have any chance to make the comeback. Great double swing coming out from Full Sail. However, alongside Delta, they know exactly their role. What has to come forward for them to get that final kill. Get yourself to a 3-round advantage and start to bring that point even further home, where UCF Academy make probably the right decision. We harp on this a lot, Dallas, every single week here on the SCL. If you're going to make a timeout, either do it on your eco, which we don't really like that much, or do it after that eco, and they opt to do it afterwards. This gives them a chance to talk about this next round. What worked in round 3 and 4, and why didn't that work in round 5 and 6? And ultimately, I think a lot of it's going to come down to that A site is just way too difficult for your team to hold on to once you have it. The information is too much there for Full Sail. They're winning those gunfights arguably more than they should be, even when you're set up correctly for a post plant. So maybe start to wrap a little bit more in through mid, take control of market, get those rotates if you're going to take A to get those kills to stop those later stage players from Full Sail to wrap back in for those retakes, or just start hitting the B site more often. Because when you were, those post plants, even the takes were a whole lot cleaner than these A sites have been the last few rounds.
Which even then, I mean, when you look at that A side, a big lapse in judgment. I mean, obviously, we got 2 big factors to help us out. One is rear view, and the second one, which, I mean, maybe a little more, maybe just a tiny bit more impactful, or maybe a little bit more important, just a small bit, would be wall hacks, being able to see literally everything at all times. And I mean, the biggest thing I'm noticing here that I don't believe UCF is really taking a big look at is tree control. We do not see them moving at the middle of the map. We do not see them taking that presence. You allow Full Sail to take full control of the map once you hit a site every single time. And that is a big problem already. As I mentioned it earlier, if Kyrie found a kill, which, I mean, speaking of kills, Will's able to find one, driving my point home. Exactly. Thank you for making me the genius I was born to be. Because you cannot give that up. It happens on the B side, as we see right now. They're just penetrating the middle of the map, and they just have no retaliation whatsoever. Now that you're on site, congratulations. We're talking about how great your B-holds were. While Frosty's had a chance there, it's a 1v4. For the love of God, if you got that, then at that point, just go ahead and pack your things up. But even then on A side, since there's no, catwalk control, since there's no mid control, there's no tree control. We have seen 3 successful rounds come out from Full Sail back to back nearly, off just alone being able to wrap around that tree, find themselves 2-3 kills, and even then UCF doesn't look very comfortable holding it on site and taking that angle, looking towards it. They need to be in there, they need to be contesting that area, they need to be watching that window. They need to make sure these guys feel suffocated in their spawn, and they're just not doing that.
Yeah, I think they opt to go for a whole lot less than what they could have technically done. It was very sacrificial onto that B site, and like I said, not fighting for map control, not denying that map control more specifically. You don't need that space yourself. You just need to make sure they can't claim it. Is really shooting themselves in the rear, and their value for their biggest bang with the buck here in this round is going to be the fact that they opted for that secondary save in last round, which gives us enough money for that operator so they can lock down all of top mid and bottom mid in the rest of Fountain alongside it. But in the process of doing so, you kind of force your team to take that A side, so the operator still has value in the later stages of this round. It just will not work as effectively as you would like if you try to take that B objective. Dev Hauer forced to step away from a flash in a very bad spot. Will need to fall back and has some assistance from their KO, but you're burning util.
I mean, for the love of God, throw a couple more pieces of util at it. They'll be happy every single bit you give them, and that doesn't hit them. Just for what was a bit of a decay on a player's HP there for a little bit. It's just not worth the trouble. You didn't hear a shadow step. You didn't kind of get any cues there, letting you know that somebody crossed over. When invest in the smoke, and especially the fragment grenade. I mean, that is a huge slowdown piece of denial there that you just don't have anymore. But already shutting one player down, this is when it comes down to, you didn't find that mid control, but Zeph is thankfully able to be here and hold things down on their own.
30 seconds
shots,
left.
2 players clipped off. The issue is the rest of the players coming from your default spots, aka spawn, just can't
Last player
hold
standing.
on to their own life. As one by one, Frosty's in the toil seems to be making quick work of everyone. The kill will moving alive. Finds one, maybe a second. Just shy to get that shot to keep things rolling.
They'll keep the operator as well. Handed off by Bag initially. Goes down from Kill Will's Vandal. And it will put UCF Academy back into a spot where they say they can't actually continue to contend in this attacking half, which has been so poor for them in the last 4 or 5 rounds. And even with all of the processes of Full Sail and all their utility denial, the single best thing they gained out of that was truly the value for time. All of the utility, though, is so expensive. They are riding off of a really big route of successes, Dallas, which means they don't have to worry too much about the expenditure of that round. They were already capped on credit, so it's not the worst case scenario. But the problem comes in afterwards. All of that utility, and you didn't find what you're wanting for, and a single mistake on that B site hold where Ghost had already managed to jump over the trap wires that were pre-placed there by your Cypher and sneak off towards Cubby unknown. If Ghost had managed to get even a single kill there, the 2 kills that came afterwards with that Odin would never have mattered, and the round would have been a whole lot worse looking than it was. And I think Full Sail Armada are very aware of that fact. They need to be a whole lot better about getting that information. That's why they have to pick the agents they have to do so. And they need to be a whole lot less willing to just dump that utility, because then they don't have it for a post plan. They're forced to just gun swing forward, and look how it panned out. UCF Academy going completely untouched once they had control of that site.
I'm not worried as much about jumping the utility in that kind of round. I mean, that came more so down to when it comes around to that B site, ditching this site. It's a different D where they have to worry themselves about, because, I mean, they just go ahead and leave Zeph on an island way too quickly. And the problem is, in that circumstance, dude still got 2 kills, did his job +1, and it still wasn't enough to get the job done. You see all these other players swinging, coming, and trying to retake market, try to come back in from main, but it's already going to be accounted for. They're watching those angles. They know the one player on site's dead. That is their one job at that point. Get a player onto the plant, and at that point, nobody else can be really dumping things into you. Nobody's going to kind of actually make the play of the game. Nobody's kind of pushed up to the middle of the map, because they're not exercising that right over towards B until we saw it in that last round. Because once again, going back to that middle of the map and putting some emphasis there, it took this squad of UCF 4,700 credits just to check the middle of the map. That's a very expensive expenditure. And even then, better yet, knowing that that's how it really goes down. Honestly, seeing Kairu not really perform in this game with the Vandal, I think is a time you really start to take a step back, understand that maybe the operator could be the point. I could be warmed up in that regard, and maybe they're not, because we haven't even seen it got a chance to take a shot. But if you're holding that angle and you know they're pushing up the middle of the map, and if you want to hold that aggression and kind of keep players accounted for, that's an easy way to do it, because you spawn on this angle. You don't have to swing it like anybody else. It is there. It's definitive. It is there for the defenders to take advantage of. And if we see Kairu starting to possibly do that, he could get a little bit more impact on this defense, maybe find a couple first bloods. And so long as he's an overinvest like we saw that Bulldog in round number 2, I think you're looking pretty darn good moving forward.
Yeah, you got this like razor point right now for UCF Academy where, hey, we bought the operator. They don't take map control. They're not fighting for map control. And we've started to finally play against it. But now the moment we switch off the operator, they start fighting for map control again, right? And they don't want that to be the case. They don't want it to come to that Occam's razor kind of scenario. They want to play a whole lot more, I would say, smart. And I don't think they're using their intelligence gathering utility or even their locational denial utility effectively to deny that map control.
You got a dart, a drone, a knife. I mean, you got so much to work with. And
you
you're
have
opting to
so
spend
much.
4,700 creds.
So there's a lot less credits needed to do the job that you're doing with that operator. So you can't say this operator is working if you haven't seen it yet. And it may be kind of causing problems later in these rounds when you're not having a proper rifle to stand up with, especially if you're that duelist, especially for that jet that's needed to close the distance. And you're having to hand that operator back to somebody else, play a game of trading, dropping it on the ground, hoping it doesn't make a noise, things like that, right? So what can UCF Academy do? I think a lot of it's going to come down to playing a whole lot smarter with their Sova. If you put your Sova top, maybe you have an owl drone that you can send up and forward, and that will slowly come back into your pocket at the later stage of the round. And you say, hey, I've got the information now. I can get the information later, and I can still bring value to the team. Unlike when you have an operator where its true value is going to be early and not so much later. Dallas, give me a glare.
You mean
here.
the recon dart?
Yes, the recon dart. Sorry, my bad.
In.
Recon dart. You can play that early, and that stops that very aggressive push from Full Sail that they've been sending down through bottom mid and into courtyard. And if you don't want to do that, you have trap wires. Just take your team slightly through courtyard, put a trap wire right outside of arches, and then you'll know when it gets shot, you'll know when it gets cleared, and you've just got to keep a secondary angle in case your team wants to still stay inside of Octopus.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you in that regard. I think even then, more so, just comes down to getting themselves into post-plant scenarios. I mean, we see the rush not really come out enough where they're actually utilizing that. I think it took Full Sail a little bit too long to kind of get that understanding of where they could really start manipulating the map, and they did it kind of in a slow trickle effect. I mean, even then, you saw finally that they were sneaking through round after round, kind of waiting for those retakes and saying, "Oh, we were behind the entire time. We just didn't want to pull the trigger too fast. We want to make sure you're committed to a side." So they can actually just surround you there and just completely suffocate you. But it was final that round when it's kind of you're sneaking your DS past your mom in your bedtime. It's like, all right, it didn't give me that time until finally you're saying, screw it. I'm blasting the volume up. I got the full screen. I don't even have the blanket over my head anymore. And it's just like, could you be any more obvious? You get two players to rush up mid. You find a kill off the back of it, and it's at that point saying, "Oh, mid! I forgot about that." And you just completely ruin your entire gameplay in there for FSA. And I mean, it was working for a while there, and it's good for them. But even then, at that point, it's funny to see that almost it feels like UCF to a certain degree is overcompensating for that lack of control early on, saying, "Oh, we got an operator this time. Yeah, that'll teach him something." It's like they're not going to do that anymore, dog. They already checked that box. That avenue is now completely not rinsed dry, but it's just not as feasible it used to be. And even then, we're in the later stage of the round now, so you're kind of getting to that point where teams are starting to warm up. They're starting to wind down. They're starting to feel like, okay, we got stuff figured out. But even in a tech pause, that could be enough to go ahead and just kind of get things right back rolled up where you got to start those engines again, because you get to the point where you've now been having another minute and a half timeout while we've been yapping about to at least go ahead and say what was happening here.
And it gets even worse. They were about to be ready to go in, but apparently a computer's freezing the side of Full Sail Armada, and it's just
Right.
getting worse. So there's going to be a quick little 5-minute break, it seems like, before we jump on into it. So don't go anywhere. This map is not yet over, and no team has certified themselves a victor, whether or not we need a third map or whether or not we're done with two. See you guys when it's ready to get back underway. Well, Dallas, there's a whole lot less of a time than we initially thought.
Yeah.
We could have got for another 20 seconds on top of that and still been
I
fighting to
didn't
get
even
back into the
sit
game.
down, man. What the heck?
Yeah,
I feel
TV. I mean, I
bamboozled.
sat for about 10 seconds flat.
I got hardwood floors now. I can't stand barefoot that long. I got flat feet. Starts hurting, dude.
We're gonna call Fred. Where's the budget for floor mats for your?
Just give me like one of those like things they get in like corporate offices.
Oh, for your
it's like
office chairs?
It's like the little stand board that's like a little surfboard that wiggles around.
You're on camera, just here to see.
I already move my legs all the time. I feel like I'd just be so
Sleep.
I feel like if we didn't have cameras that could autofocus, it would just be constantly bad. Constantly moving around. Great first blood, though, coming out from UCF Academy. They know that Yoden was there, and they are able to prowl up very stealthily. Problem is, past that, UCF Academy give up a kill immediately afterwards. They'll have to find success elsewhere, and that's with that operator that Azure was still holding on to, locking down that market exit. And this is what I was highlighting. If they want to take that A side, they need to have somebody that's there to stop the rotate. If Azure can do it, then Azure's job is completely fulfilled, even with that boomstick in the pocket where you really were worried about its value at the later stages. They also had a boomstick of their own. Cairo on side, Delta inside of Garden, and those bodies are fodder. They are so good for the roses inside of Garden. Full Sail, bury 3. They're alone and take them up to 7.
And even then, I mean, they got to go ahead and point out the just absolute ego piece coming up from Kairu as well. I mean, I got to say, any other player, the fact that you just completely neglect a main, again, not expecting any kind of wraparound whatsoever, it's just crazy to think of. It still works out nonetheless as the triple sneak comes through that window. That's not an avenue you see very often. That's a 1 in a million chance that actually going ahead and occurring the way it did. But going forward now, I mean, Full Sail. Just
out of my
absolutely
way.
driving home the scores they've had so far. Obviously not insurmountable to any degree. They're locked at a 9 as UCF has found themselves 3. And I don't think they're done just yet because they failed your entire advice earlier. Go back to the B side. See what works over here because obviously A isn't working out all that well. They didn't have any concerns in the middle of the map. But the thing is, they do have a lot of concerns back in spawn. And even then, coming from it, as finally we're in a situation where all
Last
4
player
players,
standing.
you got more guys alive to actually retake the site, but you go ahead and start off with something. The Hunter's Fury comes out, but for what cost? Because that was a lot of players with sheriffs, and
My
I think
ready.
they just might as well run into it at that point.
That's the definition, Dallas, of like asking your grandma for a console for
round
Christmas, saying, "Oh, I
before
want the
the switch.
PlayStation," but then they hand you some like
The game
Walmart,
station, or the
yeah, they
Soulja
hand you
Boy.
some like Walmart like Darth Vader plug-in
Soulja
TV
Boy
thing.
or the Soulja Station, whatever it was.
Yeah, the Soulja Boy. that's the equivalent, right? I wanted them to go to B, but I wanted to go with their kit. I wanted to go with actual weapons. They're in an eco round. What are they trying to do there? If you're gonna hit that site, try to do it with everything you have under your belt. I know it has to be an eco save, but to play smart with those sheriffs, that distance is not going to be closed very effectively, and it's just not going to find the value you're hoping for. Full Sail, unbelievably strong in this first half. And yes, defense is very good in a sense, but they're showing us a level that was kind of unprecedented off the back of what we were seeing from UCF Academy on both sides of Haven, whether it's attack or offense, or attack or defense.
Enemy kill.
Seeing them fall flat like this is very unexpected. And they got first blood here, and it immediately goes back the other way. This operator is so good in Kyrie's hands.
That's one of the few points when that operator and that ego actually can work. When you're not overextending into 4 players, if you see the one and it's really just a piece of utility, just go ahead and neglect it. Don't worry about that. One thing you do have to worry about, a massive dump of util coming right at you right afterwards. Plenty of players on site now, all 4 there. Going ahead and getting the door closed. But not only that, they have a player extending into tree, checking that box, making sure nobody has a wraparound. Problem is, you could have had it, but nobody's really there. I was expecting maybe a flank player going ahead and going all the way around spawn, but that's just not the case here. You finally get a Surra tucked away towards tree. That's a player that found so much impact, but just didn't get a chance to look at the site, and a very, very quick cleanup to see UCF getting their 4. It took them a while to figure out that offense, but they at least managed to get something out of it. But a little bit too little too late. It's Full Sail now. Double the rounds, and even then we saw them finally win their first pistol round on this map. So maybe they could repeat history and find themselves double digits relatively early.
Guys, remember the days back when it was Hawaii and the 6 teams of Houston that were always winning out every single collegiate event, and Ascent was awful to watch for them because neither team could play any defense whatsoever? Collegiate has taken just a major 180. It has been very defensive sided for Ascent. I think the map as a whole has kind of fallen that way, but Collegiate was very slow to follow suit with every other margin for that, whether it just be pure ranked in game or a semi-pro or pro scene. They're a little bit too slow following into it. I'm glad to see that Full Sail get a really positive first half. And UCF Academy realize, hey, we got to kick it into high gear. We cannot let a third map come forward, because if Full Sail get that momentum, get that win, and start to pad their egos, success is not guaranteed. And when we head on over to our third map choice, it is pretty good for UCF Academy on this defensive hold, and what a hit from a Toil. What a Kill Will is going to be fuming, because it's a dominant UCF Academy round 13.
Yeah, what a pistol round. Just go ahead and retaliate here from UCF. I mean, great looks, great kills, shots across the board, 4 players surviving by the end of it. I'm not really sure what all was recovered in the process, because this team, we did notice during that last map, they like to have a couple players buy up on the Vandals and a couple players opt for the Sheriff. So when they find themselves that round 3 scenario, it looks almost like a regular buy, but I mean, just outstanding placements there in terms of that crosshair and getting those shots out. As we can see here, not too much of an actual buy coming through. I believe the map is a little bit too close quarters to really manipulate those Vandals enough. You could find yourself possibly in a right-click situation from a Classic, and so I can't blame them for not wanting to go for that investment here on this map particularly, because, I mean, things get a little bit too dirty, too messy, too quickly. But as it stands right now, middle map control. We understand that Full Sail, they utilize this on the defensive side very aggressively, or at least in kind of a more subconscious way during that last half. So they want to make sure that box is checked here during the second half when they're on the attack. Flexing things out, seeing where players can kind of start, you know, stretching their legs a little bit. And while they saw that A and the entry there wasn't looking all that good, maybe they go over towards B. But even then, KJ Turret waiting on them. But where do they opt to go for? Not through all the swarm nades. No, sir. They're just going to go ahead and put themselves in a complete roundabout, overwhelm the guys on site, and find all the kills necessary to get that spike down. 2 players alive. kill wheel off site, but knowing that players are
player
close,
standing.
and even then, Zeph getting the spike down and doing his job. Does have a gun to work with, so things are looking relatively good, but what gun is it? Doesn't matter. It doesn't even find a shot.
What gun is it? Well, it's claimed by the floorboards. It doesn't matter for that much longer. UCF Academy, yeah, they give up a spike plant. We'll still get a couple credits out at the end of it, but that's what you want to see. You want to see them take that round 13. You want to see them take round 14. The struggle now is going to be round 15. They only are carrying 3 weapons over. A Bulldog, a Guardian, and a Spectre are fairly valuable weapon choices, but you need to make that decision. If you feel like you are desperate for this round, do you buy up and match it? And I don't know if this will stick, but Azura had enough credits handing the Spectre over to Ghost to buy up an operator now. They were doing fairly good with it in the end of the first half. I mean, obviously, they're sitting at 14-10 now. Their stats are nothing to scoff at, but was it good enough to have an operator going into the 3rd round of the second half?
I mean, it's not even about the operator itself and the selection of that. I don't mind it, but it's just more so the kind of reinforcements you have. Do you have enough on site to actually kind of play that thing down? Because I feel like this should, so long as you find yourself maybe a first 1-2 kills and Asura isn't a part of that equation, he's not going to push that site. I mean, you're essentially saying, okay, this is a 2v5. We're not going to be really playing anything out already. That first blood I mentioned coming through. Maybe a second one off the back of it. Here comes Tyro. Asura able to find a no-scope here, at least for a singular player. With a 2v4 scenario, you just get that over to Kairu. What's it going to end up doing with it? Either throwing it off the map,
Just getting out of there.
Will be terrible, but I mean,
Gun
yeah,
here.
at least gonna be holding it over towards A main until the end of this round.
That would be way too claimable for UCF Academy, knowing this will be an eco round for them. Be way too claimable of a weapon. They want to get it away from the possible loving hands of them. Atoyle gets one frag up in Rafters. Got him afterwards, and Ghost is pincered. That was a very expensive round for UCF Academy, and only getting 2 kills out of it. Only a single kill off the operator in the first place. You kind of put all your eggs in one basket, and you tripped up at the finish line and go, oh no, where the heck are all my eggs? This is just... What a choice from UCF Academy. Another one?
Dude, what? Like, the operator in the last round was essentially a suicide vest, which was just hot wired to go off early, but you were thankful to have at least one person in the vicinity whenever it went off. But, I mean, now you're at a point where you decide to go in again after seeing it being faulted the first time. You do know 3rd time's a charm, right? So that's a lot of money you're investing for even a shot. That's 16-10. So, I mean, whatever. Let's see. I mean, I'm here for it. I love to watch it. The no-scope was entertaining at least the first time, but if it happens the second, I mean, I'm just going to be at the point where I'm just giving up.
Yeah, so you treat it like a shotgun, man. That's not how it's supposed to be used. Keep matters worse. It's a first blood in favor for Full Sail. Players inside of market trying to get a little bit of information. Only 8 HP for Atoyle. Azura can get something out of it, knowing the HP difference. They'll want to get a rifle and step forward, but it's just bad positioning. There's no way the crossfire that's been set up from Delta and Cairo would be shut down for the 2 players meandering out of market with no help from the defender spawn. UCF Academy hand over another round, it feels like, to Full Sail, and there is no odds where you can pull out another operator for this next round. It's not happening. I don't even know if you can buy an outlaw for this round. But you're going to give them 11 unless you pull off something miraculous in this eco. And that means that they're so close to a 12, which is just ever closer to that coveted 13th, Alice. And the rounds just get further and further out of your favor.
I feel like Asura is just genuinely leaving the rest of his team in the dust in this game. Says, you know what? I mean, I'm doing my job right. I'm getting my kills. I got my money. I got my operator twice. Maybe I lost it immediately. I got a Blade Storm now, though. So while you plebeians are over here messing around with your classics and your other guns, I'm just going to go play my own game over in the attacking side spawn and figure it out. Have fun. It's just like, I don't know. There needs to be a little more assistance here as an entire unit if they're really getting themselves back into this thing. I mean, obviously, good start here to go ahead and get at least one gun. Think about it. If another player was there, you could keep on rocking the Blade Storm. You could have passed the gun off to somebody else, but let's see what they got to work with. I don't know whether or not it was picked up. It had to have been acquiesced. And even then, I don't know. Can I get a quick scoreboard?
No beacon.
Just to see if anybody got that pickup.
It's too far back, I think.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's way.
Okay,
no,
he gave it back.
No.
He gave it back, I believe. I don't remember if Bag gave it back or not. I don't know if Bag bought. I don't think he did, though, considering everybody else. You're not going to be the only one to buy there.
Commander's worse. You had a man advantage, but Azura really wanted to claim that space. Bag's close by, though. Maybe hoping for Puppy to go unchecked.
Yeah, he's a sheriff. He did not buy that event, so let's pass it off.
30 seconds left.
Bag hoping
It's a
for a
long
shot
evasion.
opportunity. Maybe gets it. Can Shroud step out, but this could be very poor. If door doesn't get flipped and Bag doesn't get out in time, thankfully, just as the players extend into sight, the Vandal will still stay here for value, and that's 2 Vandals now dropped on walkway.
10 seconds left.
And they'll both be collected by desperate UCF Academy players. Bag will be dropped. Cairo gets a spray down for both, but a 2v1 and a single clove smoke that will dissipate soon. Is there a second one in that back pocket?
Out of charges.
The recon bolt has been destroyed and Zeph is now alone.
enemy
Able to
remaining.
cut down one. Close to slow and Zeph has no problem
Never
for the
give up.
second. UCF almost cooked, but get burned in the end by Full Sail.
Clean with it. I said it was 1-2K. You just need one more of them. And considering you got that shock dart, which ended up hitting both players, that's just, oh goodness. That's one of those situations where you don't understand how nice that is until you go back. And that's one of those points where Zeth does go and do a little bit of bot review. And considering he's the top frag of the map right now, I wouldn't blame him if he does come back and watch this game, all things considered.
Let us hunt.
It's one of those games that bolster your ego and say, hey, I mean, obviously you guys, y'all got something to do, but I was looking good. And I was playing with the team, unlike Asura. So, like, let's turn up. But, I mean, seeing how things are going, outstanding efforts here from Full Sail. I mean, a 5-round lead, 1 round off from the map point. And even then, considering the ultimates, I mean, they didn't even invest the Hunter's Fury there. Didn't overinvest, didn't kind of get antsy, just it's cool, calm, and collected, understanding what you got to work with. And we see it right there, choking up UCF, not only when it comes around to the rounds alone, but also in the map. They're playing very much more so reserved now. Even in likely, already getting some hits off. Some good hits from UCF here. Felt like they were a bit suffocated there for a second. They understand that, well, now is the time of desperation. We're 5 rounds down. It's a now or nothing kind of ordeal, and we're just going to go for it.
It did call out Dallas. Zeph got hit in the leg. Lined up at just the right time. Now down to only 30 HP, and there's plenty of util still being gathered by UCF Academy. They still have their Sova, they still have their KO. You can hope for the 0 point to continuously keep tallying forward after it's used. To make matters worse, to be able to knock down a player like Cairo, who's doing so well for Full Sail, you're finding value, though Back can't escape past that point. It's a 3 versus 2. This is where that
30
crossfire
seconds
from the
left.
Toil can be so darn clean. And Zeph is very,
Last
very
player
wary of it.
standing.
Toil takes down Kill
Spike
Will. Wants to
down
get
A.
it. Zeph has to
I
refrag
have
it.
the spike.
And 20 seconds left gives you no
Revealing
time to
area.
rotate on over to the B site instead. Recon bolt up towards Raptors. Only 1 player firing towards Zeph. Now knows
Spike
there's one
planted.
there, but where's the second? Do you know where Ghost is? Do you know that they're both lining up in Raptors?
hear
You'll
him.
tuck yourself off towards Covey. Drop has been made. Second Ghost. You've been
enemy
live
remaining.
ping, but the shot to Ghost will miss. And Frosty closes it out just barely. The 30 HP Zeph almost pulled it out, but UCF Academy will keep them away from 12.
Yeah, just seeing how things are going there. I mean, obviously, just way too close for comfort. But I mean, Full Sail, no matter what, win or loss in these rounds, they've been accumulating ultimates quite easily just to guarantee themselves maybe a possible overtime. Because we've seen this team when it came around to Haven, they didn't invest all those in one fell swoop. They wanted to kind of, at a time, pace themselves out. So if they're not investing these things, there is a reason. There is a entire system built around this to get 1 round of utter chaos that just cannot be answered by UCF, especially when, once again, I mentioned it, when the blood starts pouring, UCF always seems to be the one arising from it. But think about it, when you have a global, that's an extra body. The KO, that's an extra body. It's so much more than just meat that you have to start going through before you start making an impact. You're making an impact. Hunter's Fury, lining players up in A main. That is one of those green spots if you can find yourself a couple hits. It just doesn't find all the fruition that you want out of it. Already getting a couple more kills. I mentioned the chaos. Come back from the dead.
Spike down A. One enemy remaining. Last
Still
player
comes down to
standing.
1v1, where Ghost has to hit the shots and does.
That is a dream for UCF Academy that almost became a nightmare.
Out
The
of
speed at
touches.
which Full Sail were able to extend in towards sight. Kairu's elevation. And the just cubby you're forced to hide within from from Bag sitting on site. It's desperate moments, it's desperate timing. But they hold out with Ghost getting that final kill. And even just the simple Guardians they had in play for that round pan out to get them up to 8. And they have to keep this spree moving forward. It's Full Sail. They have 3 ultimates themselves here, Dallas. This is not a spot where you can sit back. They have their own Hunter's Fury for a post plant. They have that no command to step in towards site and keep a Yurto off. And they have that neural theft once they get that first blood and need that little bit of information. UCF Academy has to play so smart for this first peak, and they cannot let the trades go the wrong way.
Shadows traveling.
I understand the Clovolt in that last round, but I mean, when you see the Hunter's Fury come through, is that not just an instant X press out of the KO to deny the rest of those shots, get your free entry on the side? I mean, you've just knocked down guaranteed counter for at least one thing. You've done your job, and everything past that is plus more. I mean, that one extra body, that possible resurrection would have been enough to really get the job done, but it's just one of those situations where Full Sail, I guess they just didn't have the call. They didn't want to make the shots there. And even then, Devour was saying, I'm on an island. I'm usually able to get the frags necessary to get my ultimate back, so I can make this investment that you can't. But speaking of investment, throwing bodies in the middle of the map, hoping something sticks, and there it is. A good trade, opening things up a little bit more so. And looking at what else is to work with, well, all of A-Site. An absolute showdown here from Delta to clear things up.
Delta is doing everything themselves, and they didn't even need the neural
left.
theft for that extra bit of information on top.
Here.
Now it's a
Spike
4v2,
planted.
and UCF Academy need to pray that Ghost has something crazy alongside of Toil. They can
One
win that
enemy remaining.
to take them away from a possible 12-8. Just doesn't seem as likely. This is already a round where they're struggling on the eco despite the wins they've had. It's just barely enough to have everything, the couple extra credits in the back pocket. Now with Ghost alone and the information from a spy cam, it's just a matter of time until the wall bangs come forward to put Ghost into an early grave. Their name aptly fitting for what they'll soon to be. I think they'll opt to save. This is why you have players to move up through Garden. Fragment to go forward, catching them just barely off guard.
That sucks.
Not dying to the fragment. That's crazy timing and so unlucky for
Crazy.
Killwell. As
Oh,
Match point.
We can end it now. Once more.
you good?
just once. 12-8, UCF Academy. You got to start kicking it up for a flawless next 4, because if you don't, it's going to be sending us on over to a 3rd map of the day.
Yeah, I mean, honestly though, I mean, realistically, from both our perspectives, I kind of want that, especially considering how interesting Haven was as a 3-site map. I mean, a map that doesn't really feel necessarily boring, but usually just doesn't have that much to provide. It just kind of feels relatively stagnant. It comes out of how the teams play it. Here, I mean, obviously, Full Sail making it interesting right off the rip, and guess what? Not only in terms of the agent selections, but also in terms of the score alone as well. Keeping things rolling, pushing this site, flooding these players off, and putting up the necessary frags.
Spike planted.
What's left? Well, a Hunter's Fury coming out. I mean, going ahead and shutting off, I guess, any entries and retakes that can come underway, but you put your run down for that process. It comes out of Full Sail and a 2v3 with the KO no command being available for the resurrection there, and that's a body back in the equation. Can the 2 players do it? Well, it comes out of Kairu. We've seen this guy absolutely frag before on that ISO, but this is an ISO, baby. This is Jet. You don't have much to work with. You gotta find the shot.
One enemy
Comes out of
remaining.
Kill Will. The sub for Yelena in map 1. Couldn't do much there, but can definitely do it here.
Attackers
Brings to
win.
Map number 3. We're going to Lotus.
Oh my goodness. We said we wanted this game and this series to be close, Dallas, and they are giving us a showcase.
Yeah,
No
right.
matter what, neither of these teams want to get sent home. Though they're probably already pretty close to home anyways. They don't want to get sent out of the SCL.
Right.
They want to stay and participate. Unfortunately, UCF Academy failed to close out map 2 to give and guarantee their 2-0 punch ticket on to the next round. Full Sail Armada have proven they are here to fight with the best, and that difference of 3 in their seeding means nothing at the end of the day. They'll take map 2 of Ascent in a pretty darn dominant fashion, and they'll move on over to our 3rd map of the day, which Dallas, another 3 objective where UCF Academy had a huge something to say about it on Haven. Will it turn out the same, or will Full Sail Armada's confidence after map 2 make that difference? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I think honestly, there's not enough confidence here from Full Sail. I don't think they really play the game in a confident level. I think they play it very meticulously. They really like to slow the game down. They like to go ahead and analyze what's in front of them, like to feel things out. And obviously, as I mentioned earlier, they felt out the middle of the map. What came around to the entirety, what feels like this, the middle third of this entire map. and just over and over again, we're going to manipulate that. Even then, not the last round, but the round before that, where things were looking a little bit sketchy, they were able to kind of pull things out and make it just as close as it was, purely because they had a singular player dictated towards tree, able to hold that thing down and make sure they don't find any lap arounds, because they understand that that box is checked. You're not really concerned too much about sight, and allows your players just to focus on heaven and mow down whatever player comes their way. But I mean, even then, I do like the substitutions. I do like everything else I was played there. Devour obviously not doing nearly as good as we had typically seen in the map beforehand, only 11 and 19 on that Clove. But I mean, that's not the biggest deal in the world. You're just happy Kairu lit up during that second half, because that was a player I was keeping my eyes on. If you're not looking good on the attacking side, well, you're just not going to have much to work with. Doesn't look good on the defense. That's its own thing. That's not the biggest deal in the world, because your Jewel is saying, so long as you're ready in that second half, we're happy to have you. As it stands right now, things weren't looking too good. And even then, they went to the second half with a very, very impressive lead. So knowing they still had what felt like they were down a player for the majority of the game and were still able to manage that, I mean, all credit to them. But coming into Lotus UCF, I mean, when you look at these 3-site maps, this isn't Haven. This doesn't feel like you're in a point of a lockjaw. When you find yourself on a particular site, you can just shoot a door, or, swap a lever, and next thing you know, you're behind the secret magic case to get yourself to another site. So it's not nearly as dictated and committal as we see on Haven, or we're going to have to see these bodies unravel. So while I feel like that would be good for UCF when they get the spike down, I feel like all the way up until that point, when you're dictated on an actual site, I mean, Full Sail is going to have the full advantage to play with here.
Will the Scooby-Doo-esque bookshelf revolving doors make a difference? Or will it turn into a lot of what we've seen on map 1 and 2? I kind of hope so, actually, considering just how fun map 1 and 2 were. But before that, we're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll get right into map 3 and see which team has to go home and which gets to move forward. 13-7 for UCF Academy, Dallas. Turn that around. You only get 1 round extra than Full Sail Armada did in all of map 2, 13-8 against you, with Full Sail Armada coming away with the victory, forcing our 3rd map of the day. It has been a very close affair. We highlighted that Full Sail Armada only felt like they were a couple of mistakes from clutching those rounds back into victory and really having a say on map 1. But can we say the same thing for UCF Academy on map 2?
Yeah, those were just much more glaring mistakes, honestly. It didn't come around to the gunfights. It just came around to map control, especially on a map that's been just so trialed over and over and over again that feels like people should know it to the degree where that just shouldn't happen in this stage in the game. But we're now going to Lotus. Different equation, right back to the 3 sites. So maybe that kind of works in their favor a little bit, but also a little bit more slow than we see on the likes of Haven, being a little more gimmicky as well, allowing Full Sail to go ahead and kind of flex their brand a little bit more so I think if there's any place that we can really see things turn up and possibly go into an OT situation, I think this is the place to do it.
How will the agent selection turn into something cheeky and funny for Full Sail? They've done something new and interesting the last 2 maps. We'll see if they do something anything crazier come to Lotus, and it doesn't seem like that will be the case. That raise has already been locked in. Devour's locking like they're going to go over towards that Gecko, as you would kind of expect, and it looks like they'll maybe fall into that kind of fade style initiation, alongside having that Gecko for the assistance for the spike plant, and maybe even for the diffuser, will have that extra player standing above it. Now, turn that around over to UCF Academy, and they say Azura's pretty darn good throughout the day as a duelist. Why not hand them over to a pretty darn fun duelist selection, Dallas? It's your favorite. It's Neon stepping into the board for Lotus.
Love to see the Neon selection. I mean, it's extremely viable here. It's nothing too crazy or out of the water ever since she received her buffs, but even then, going up against a Raze, I'm happy to see that we're not seeing anything too crazy in that regard. The one thing that is coming up crazy is what was just immediately locked in, the Yoru out of Devour. I gotta say, no matter what, this man is going to be on my radar for probably the rest of the season, purely just because of the out of the water picks in every single map, and very much so just giving us a show to watch. This is the player of the people. So y'all go ahead. If we have a favorite player, honestly, I'd go ahead and put in my votes towards him.
Now, keep in mind, if they lose, that the rest of the season will not be much longer here in Dallas.
I mean, still, it's enough.
It's enough in our hearts for as short of a time as it could be. We'll have to see as map 3 officially gets started and underway, and Full Sail Armada will be the team to step up on the defense first. Now, a lot of teams will set up for an interesting default. Obviously, having that Killjoy means you can lock down that C site quite well, but I honestly think for a map like this, Dallas, you need to be very mobile with that Sentinel. That Sentinel cannot just lock down C every single time. Maybe you'll rotate over Zeph that direction. They have their Shrouded Step. They can get them closer to Waterfall a whole lot safer. They can go off towards Box and sit behind Mound a lot better. They can play a little bit more aggressively if need be. They have the Paranoia to buy them time and safety. You can rotate those 2 players, and you also can have that Yoru step up that was picked out in the last few moments there for Full Sail. Say, hey, we have another get out of jail free card off to that side. We don't have to just have Delta there every single time. We can start to wrap them off to A as well. As Zeph gets a shorty shot straight to Azura, and Frosties has to immediately clap it back. And what is Wingman doing?
Land
Spike planted.
Where?
Bring them down.
There, okay. Oddest angle I've ever seen through that smoke. I thought that was default, but it didn't look like it. Devour. Finish your shots. 26 HP, doesn't matter. Binzi back into the game here, Dallas. We didn't talk about their sub out going into map 2. They've returned, and it's not a Clove they're bringing to the board. No Clove at all for Full Sail. That Fade gets that final blood.
Yeah, it's crazy enough to, like, one thing is UCF has 2 teams. Full Sail could also probably have 2 very good teams. They just recruit maybe, 2 more players? Because we've now seen a cumulative of, like, 3 players able to rotate out for the side of Full Sail, just depending on the map that they go to. And obviously that's not a feasible idea in pro leagues because you're not paying an entire salary to somebody for playing a particular map unless you're guaranteed a championship. But as it stands, I mean, Full Sail, if they have 2 squads, just compiling of at least, maybe somebody else they find around just kind of walking about the university who's just got some aim. I think they could have 2 very much good squads just like UCF does right now. Seeing what else is to be worked with. So talking about UCF, let's see what they're providing. It's going to be Sura once again on that Neon, but not able to find the impact up front that you really want. But it was nothing but a front. So many players heading towards A, but the actual bomb is going towards B once more. I'm just kidding. Just go ahead and juke everybody else everywhere.
We'll take A, no, we'll take B, no, we'll take C. And with the death 100% assured now of Delta, you know, there's no KJ utility you have to actively worry about on that C side. And what a toss-up from there. They just give you a little bit of an extra assistance to get that weapon up there. You have a whole lot more success now available for you on the C side for this post plant. Make matters worse, UCF Academy, they have weapons. They have space that they've claimed, and they can start to take defender spawn. They planted it for upper lip. They can go towards mount if they wanted to, but knowing that they have majority of that site, they'll play the space that they've claimed for themselves. Nothing for Classic in hand for Bag. Not gonna matter. Frosty's able to get
Oh my god.
They make it their third of the round, and they get a 4K to make it worse. UCF Academy. Frosty's became a legend in round 2 and makes this a 1-1 split, something we haven't seen since map 1 of last week when it was just a glaring problem for the rest of the season.
Ugh, don't remind me. Seeing what's going on here, though, I mean, if there's any place, as I mentioned, to keep things even, to keep things rolling, this would be the map to do it. This would be the place to do it. I mean, we've seen essentially a mirror matchup in terms of the rounds, and even in that last map, we saw it going back and forth, just so tight for the longest time that honestly, if I see some equilibrium just being just kind of elongated here, if there's any time to do it, it's here and now. These compositions, I'm here to see as much of it as humanly possible, but even then, better yet, if we see rounds being exchanged on a map like this, that means the adaptations are at a T for both these squads. And I mean, I'd just love to see on a map like this what each team can do to really just accommodate the other and their needs. But early on, we saw the aggression towards the A site. We saw the picks come through, one for both ends. And I mean, obviously just a better trade here for Full Sail. Maybe not in terms of the actual health, but knowing the money that's on the line here for UCF, it's good nonetheless as they want to push up, find themselves towards B once more. Not an exact C hit coming out just yet, but here they could definitely choose to back off and, you know, shift gears once more. But I don't know. This B site, they look pretty comfortable in it. They want to take these fights here as much as humanly possible. After the first round not going their way over here. Second round looking pretty all right. Third, it's going to look even better considering that the player contesting them doesn't have anything to work on.
Mosh pit sent off towards defender spawn. The waterfall angle maybe would have been held for a second, but Delta still finds value with that classic. The problem is that Ghost is hunting for an ace. 4 kills already. Last player up above. That heaven angle, if your flash won't matter. There's your ace.
Yep.
We said a hero was found in round 2. A legend was found in round 2. Well, you got your hero for round 3. My goodness, there's your crown. Is there a ring on this man?
I mean, you got the big circle above the B side.
Thanks.
Call that a ring?
Gotta go.
There's no screen though.
No.
You say that maybe guarded on A is a pin.
No.
Just
Rocket League didn't do it. It's fine. We don't have to.
Where are you?
We're only here to be better than them.
Copyright strike avoided nonetheless.
Oh yeah, that dude. First thing he's gonna do, he's gonna cry about the fact that we did it, and then afterwards, he's gonna copyright. Like, look at these guys.
It's okay. I don't have a loving family like Dan TDM, so I can't just post one photo and ultimately win at the end of the day. It's okay, you'll be my family.
Not one on a maid though. That's a little bit better.
That's true. Too bad that Nate didn't really give them much access to sight. Azura still has to go up quite dangerously. This wingman plant is on post wall.
Spike planted.
Get it down a little bit sooner than maybe expected coming out from Full Sail. They tossed the nail to him afterwards, wasn't able to deny it. They can maybe get claimed a little bit of space. Crash goes forward. Delta's detained. That unclaimable territory for that Crash, but that still plant is held quite well from UCF Academy. Off towards Mound. Need to be active on site, though this is not planted for you. Angle forward for Kairu.
What?
And what is this just trickling effect right now from UCF Academy?
Last player standing.
It's just pour after pour.
Full Sail just walked right through everything. Like, no regard for any utility, players, just a general presence of anything. I mean, for example, Delta walking up right through a KJ, like, detection bot, and just saying, I'll take the vulnerability, who cares? Next, you got Kyrie just walking into the smoke. No setup whatsoever. Just saying, all right, cool. Snap onto a player. Kill. I mean, that was just a complete disregard to where obviously it was a fault from UCF when you had the post plate. You had the utility there set up. But you just completely lose vision of the players at hand and the kills necessary. Which is odd to see from them specifically, knowing that's typically where they excel.
uncharacteristic. But those are glaring problems we've seen, I think, throughout a lot of this series so far. Little things that you wouldn't expect to be a problem that ultimately become one, and things that were never a problem initially now all of a sudden becoming one.
That's spike, Wings.
This is 4v4 on site, each team getting a piece of the pie.
Last player standing. Spike planted.
Finally, we see a result that is different from the initial trades. Full Sail find a big double kill and secure themselves a 3-player to 1 advantage. And they'll close it out with those 3 players still standing. Yusuf Academy, you get to sight, you get something out of it, but what are you doing? Still extending that far and sitting still so close for those homes.
I mean, me and UCF are in the same exact shoes right now. I mean, I'm willing to bet we're both lost. Like, it is just kind of at a point where, what exactly is happening? How are you just dropping players this fast? How are just rounds just ending this quickly? It gets to a point, I mean, obviously, I mean, Bolby can do all the work in the world, but there's no way you can cover that many kills occurring that quickly in such a simultaneous string from so many collective players. But even then, it's at a fault of who, really, for even letting that happen in the first place. It just feels like they're kind of throwing bodies on the site, and usually, I mean, in the last map, it got to a point where, sure, when you get that many players around the plan and you're kind of getting things rolling, I mean, it's looking good and you're happy with the result at hand, but I mean, even in this kind of situation now, I mean, this is not a sin anymore, apparently. I mean, sites are set up differently, but not that differently, where, I mean, you should be looking like a completely different team.
Devour plays very aggressive in this round. I think it's just another thing that Full Sail are doing. It almost feels like they've got a Trojan horse set up for their lineup. They're willing to take an early fight. They're willing to let it go as a trade, and they've been very good about letting it be trades, not really giving up that first blood every time for no real value afterwards. It's just a matter of they're lacking an eco. Zeph did not do justice to the rest of the team's defensive hold. That Judge comes out and wide swings with a Judge. Didn't really get any damage off, and they'll fall. Now giving UCF Academy that player advantage they were hoping for, and a spike plant now on the B site. With a full host plant setup set up quite well for them. They'll have their raise for Full Sail wrap over towards Mound. Maybe Delta can pull off another miracle 4K, 3K ace, whatever is required to get them through the rest of this. Because there's players off towards Link, there's players off in towards Waterfall, and there's no players left for Full Sail's defense. UCF Academy rout them here in round 6 and tie this series back up 3-3.
I mean, yeah, you talked about the util, but I mean, keep in mind that it didn't matter over towards the C site 2 rounds prior, but as it stands right now, it at least holds true for a round to work with. As another thing that's going to be here, definitely making a point, is the amount of yellow lights along the top of your screen looking like Christmas time just a couple months early. The only thing that's missing is maybe that showstopper to come into play here. But I mean, honestly, you couldn't concern yourself too much with that. It comes down to the actual utilization of it. The Yoru is not the same thing as the ISO that we were seeing earlier, hoping to get an isolated fight right off the get-go. Instead, you're looking at a circumstance of more kind of playing that lurking role for the retake, and that looks like everybody else's job as well. The Nightfall, the lockdown, everything here. You're just going to be looking to see if busting problems out when they come your way. And speaking of problems, they're coming in flood. But the problem is, there's a case for the Nightfall that they just can't take the shots. Delta finds 2, but it's a very, very quick snap back from UCF as they find themselves 2 in quick succession to kind of trade it out.
It's a big flood from UCF Academy, especially for the utility.
I'll handle this.
You can't find your boat to survive it. What are you going to do? Now we're trying to hope for some information and then rotate back the other way. Flash around in the corner. Waterfall maybe a chance. The Frosties and Ghosts. They do not care for your puny peaks. They will just gun you down in every angle you choose to go for. Unreal from UCF Academy. Even when things looked like they should have gone the other way, they still somehow come out on top as 5 ultimates were used in that round, Dallas. And the team that used more came out on top.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know. I mean, considering what was at hand. I mean, looking at the ones from UCF, they were all just way more impactful just in general, though. I mean, the Rolling Thunder, you really can't just sleep on the immediate impact off of that. The Thrash is just another thing because you get 2 use of those. And the lockdown and the post plant, I mean, that's just kind of, that one was a bit unnecessary, but I mean, it is what it is. You're not really stressed out too much. It didn't really find the impact, just kind of put a timer on a couple players, and you could maybe argue that, all right, I had to use a dimensional drift to try to go ahead and shut that thing down a little sooner. But all things considered, Still Ultimate's off the board, thankfully. We're not holding on to those for 17 rounds.
Cover going out.
Looking at the next map, because there is no next map. This is the third one on the plate, and we're going to make sure it definitely serves us well. Already going ahead, get some trades early on. Good 1-for-1, but Delta's in kind of that one-shot threshold, so you're just playing as close as you possibly can with a Bucky, hoping to maybe find one more effort of a shot out. But anything past that point is going to be miraculous.
Lockdown is employed. This doesn't clear out everything. You still have an angle off towards Cubby for Spike. This is actually, I believe, why we see UCF Academy planting for here. They at least have the ability to hold that with utility. They don't have a perfect angle for it. This is where they're going to have to start to extend. Kyber gets that off to Hack. Gets dealt with, but it's
standing.
4 kills, given the space to line up. Maybe sacrificing Ghost in front of him. That's why you've got tandem swings.
Let's hear it.
Gorgeous from UCF Academy, starting to finally figure out what's happening in front of them. You're saying they were lost just 3-4 rounds prior, but they're starting to see the picture ahead of time. They're starting to understand and develop these attacking strategies and understand how Full Sail are playing against them. Plant there, wisen up the fact they'll have their lockdown, play in a way that counters it. You come out with a very close but still good victory to give yourself a 2-round advantage after things were looking a little bit rough after round 4.
Yeah, I mean, good looks for UCF. I mean, definitely waking up in this regard for this map, able to kind of go ahead and hold their own, not lose too many players too quickly at the start of the round, and that's the biggest thing, I think, really selling them as a squad right now. I mean, that's what they're really holding them back earlier. By the time they got onto the site, they just kind of lost vision of the players at hand, didn't understand really what was being thrown at them, and now that you just hold things off a little bit slower and diminish those numbers earlier on, there's not going to be nearly as much variation. Frosty's also being the one in this round.
Enemy remaining.
Very, very early. Knocking 3 players off the board. Asura getting 1 as well. Understand that maybe this is the time to pop my ultimate. Bit questionable, but let's see. Okay, let's see what you can do with it. Obviously chasing down, see what you can manage there, but it's bad to close things out. As
almost out.
Once again, really confused about that overdrive, but you won the round.
Go.
I mean, obviously, be happy, run with it, see what you can do in the next.
There's not had a great game so far on the Neon.
No.
I just don't think it fits UCF Academy's style that started to work for them, right? That Neon just doesn't play this super slow, wait for everything to unfurl all at once. That just ability to close that distance and the speed at which to do so hasn't been a big factor for UCF Academy, and that's fine. They found the working formula. They just need to stick with it and maybe hope that defensively, having that speed, having those slides will be very effective for you, and I think that could be a good shout out. But not so far in the first half. At Full Sail, need to start to figure out what will work in favor for them. As an Nano Swarm will keep Azura back. Getting up a little bit closer in personal. Delta sees a toil, deals with them with only a stinger. That's a lot of value. What a bang for your buck. But there's finally the slide that gets past Azura and separates the site now from the remainder of Full Sail's defense and can give them a chance to put that spike down for a post-plant scenario. Though they are down a player in a 3 versus 2. And there's a lot of angles now being employed by Full Sail to make this seaside a near impossibility where UCF Academy will either take this rotate or may actually fake this rotate. Unless they can take Devour down here, and they do. Or go ahead and go for that full sprint off on over to an opposing site.
Spike drop.
Didn't even give brother a chance. That's unreal.
Running
Not
low.
full flash, but at least gets a chance to turn away, get another opportunity to take that shot, and I mean, they do not miss it. Problem is, you still got 2 more players alive. On the bright side, though, good news and bad news. There's 2 players alive. Good news, they don't really have the best weapons to work with, but they got some utility. They already sniffed out 1 player. They're sort of helping out. You know, the last one's up towards having you get the stun as a bit of an assistance as Frosty's to clean it up. Good looks here from UCF. Not getting themselves an even half by the end of this, but guaranteeing themselves a lead at the end of it, with a 5-round spree guaranteeing this for themselves. So they've now accumulated a spree of that almost nearly a double that Full Sail has accumulated the entirety of this map thus far. And I can't blame them for saying that we're going to be getting ourselves, you know, 1 more time to work with.
Full Sail Academy's first half, there was a lot of problems. Now, obviously, first 3 rounds wasn't a huge deal. They were doing really well. They found an answer. UCF Academy were lost. They just were not finding the answer to the puzzle. But we always say the team that adapts faster tends to find that win faster. And it's a game of adaptability. I'm not saying anything for Full Sail. If you're that far back now already, where is your changeup? Where is your switch? If you can't continuously throw fastballs and pray that they're going to forget that you can throw a fastball, You got to
Right.
throw a curveball. You got to throw a knuckle. You got to do something different, a slider. I don't know any other baseball terms. I don't watch that dumb sport. The issue here is I watch Valorant. I'm just not seeing any differences in this defense. It's the exact same thing nearly every time from Full Sail. And when we do see slight variations, UCF Academy have already accounted for that. They already know you've got this ultimate online. They're waiting for it. They're playing in a spot to counteract it. We know you have these 3 players left. We know how their play styles are. We know your Yoru is going to wrap. So let's wrap first, take them down, and be ready for it. And the moment we get that kill, we can then push in towards the opposing site and find the victory. What is the answer for Full Sail? Because it can't just be this second half is the answer. You've got to find these next 2 to make this a 7-5. Because if you don't, letting this be 9-3 with UCF Academy on a hot streak, I don't know how that second half's going to work out for you if you lose the pistols afterwards, which have been favoring UCF Academy all series.
Yeah, I don't even believe the lead was that. I believe we ended, what, 8-4 on both maps so far? So, I mean, finding yourself in a 9-3 kind of circumstance obviously doesn't look great, but I mean, you got to kind of deal with whatever kind of follows up with that. So, knowing Full Sail, what they have to work with, it's going to be a little bit questionable going forward. You got to see really what you're playing off of. You had the Neon there as a backup to possibly get that kill. He does get traded in the process, but that leaves another decision to now be made from UCF Academy. Do you want to be pushing this B site and kind of see if you can guarantee that second thrust usage? You want to be kind of going and just kind of leaving it in the dust and knowing that as players should be keeping that monitor to see what they can manage over here, like Ghost. But with so many players scattered about, you're now in a situation where UCF to say that somewhere's got to feel safe eventually, right? And you're putting all that weight on Ghost's shoulders, which I think if anybody's capable of doing, I mean, let's look at map number 1. Ghost sure as heck can.
30 seconds left.
I see a lot of different choices for play
Placing alarm
styles
bot.
and for players showing up. Ghost has been very static in their success.
Alarm bot.
But having that 4th player on the field to get the spike down leaves 3 weapons still up to help
Placing
assist
swarm
it.
grenade.
And now you'll have that showstopper come through for Kyra. Last time we saw it, 2 kills and really turned UCF Academy's A-sided push into a non-factor. This shot goes forward, but it doesn't
enemy
kill.
remaining.
But it may not matter. Delta and Zap can find the 2 they needed, and Kairu can pull out the Odin of all things in due time to finish that blood and give the 4th round for Full Sail's tally, maybe giving them a shot at getting the 5th. But there will be no question of UCF
Last
Academy's
round
eco.
in the
They
half.
will be able to buy. They'll buy anything their heart sets forward. They'll even have 2 ultimates in this round to work with, making that Rolling Thunder, which is so valuable just 5 or 6 rounds prior, Dallas, and even having the choice of that from the shadows if they want to get that information off of the early peak and assistance from it.
Yeah, stressful round there for both sides. I mean, while you couldn't really tell too much in Full Sail, I mean, using that showstopper alone does exhibit at least a little bit of concern in that last one to go ahead and at least invest it there. I mean, there's not many more rounds to work with, but knowing that, I mean, you're in a situation where the economy, that's the biggest thing that they were concerned about. Win or lose. I mean, they got to make sure to at least have a buy here. Otherwise, UCF Academy are looking at a very, very easy case. This is now a situation where you can't be giving those up. So already, 1 player off the board, that's an entire body given up, a gun given up. I don't know about the ultimate. I'm not quite sure how far they really were from it, but obviously that death was not enough to light up that pip. So seeing how things are going, the only thing you have to work with being the dimensional drift is quite concerning. And with the Rolling Thunder coming through out right now, well, this is what you're playing with. Nasura, who can't really aim, unfortunately, when it comes
Spike
around to
planted.
swinging for the backside of the tree, but the rest of UCF Academy are still here to go ahead and supply the reinforcements if need be.
A lot of information. DeVito trying to get as much as they can, but the step out from stealth does not matter. Even with the refrag back by Zap, it's just too short for Full Sail. Now a miracle will need to come forward by Zap. Damage off to the back of sight towards Bag. 1 HP, maybe a dream. There's the shrouded step to get off to the rest of the team. And Ghost pops up their hood, sends Zap into the afterlife. And now that's an
Switching sides.
8-4 split at halftime, with UCF Academy pretty dominantly in the lead. Now transitioning over to the defense, where, like I said, the most dangerous part of this game is going to be these first 2 pistol rounds, because they have been majority-wise the successor within them. That would get you up to double digits, and that would put you at a 6-round advantage. And even if you do lose the pistol, they've shown they can take that second right afterwards, like we saw in the first half here.
While the sample pool isn't very large for the numbers, it does say that at least the teams that have the lead when
There.
half rolls around, that's the
Gotta
team that
go.
ends up winning. So UCF obviously being double the rounds of Full Sail, like we saw
There.
Full Sail attempting on UCF in the last map, end up possibly being able to pull this forward, considering that we do see the swap up of the Rowan 1. We don't see a technical pistol round 1 because you're expecting a second one afterwards. So that one still feels quite negotiable, not only for this result of a round, but what could happen in the next. But first bloods do speak a lot of volume in a situation like this one. Pistols can do a lot of work. Issue is, they also simultaneously can't really do much. And a ghost, well, that can do a lot. Classic, especially when you're flying through the air, can also do a bunch. But who also has done a bunch over the course of this game? None other than Frosty's, who's now 6 feet under. Can't really have an attempt inside this round so far. But Asura, this gets to the point where they really start to light it up, but they don't start sprinting in the middle of the gun.
Standing.
I just like, it feels like Asura says, I'm on Neon, I have to use this utility. There's just not the space nor the time to be able to do that. Bag though, 1v3. Prowling up slowly from Waterfall. Kyra on the other side of Pillow gets the jump peek for the intel. Now you'll have a double swing off forward. You have one for the crossfire out from main. That was Delta. But Zeph goes in an isolated fight and gets punished for it. And maybe there was a chance for Bag to get Kairu. But the ghost collects itself shortly, and it's a 4th frag for Kairu. The difference in the duelists on this map, unreal. And despite that, it's the team with the worst statistical duelist winning out this game so far.
Right. I mean, even then, I mean, Sir obviously able to put in a lot of work, but I mean, even then, I feel like it's kind of fell asleep at the wheel ever since we saw him on that mat number 1. Haven was just not a bunch of highlight clips per se until that operator's put his hands, but I mean, with that Vandal, an absolute menace. Then we see the swap over to Ascent, not looking the hottest there, and now on Lotus, and I mean, it just kind of seems like a repeat of history once more, where you just kind of fell asleep at the wheel and just never really gotten fully attentive once more. There's still plenty of time left in the game. You got at least 5 rounds till you reach that match point kind of situation. But you can't let any of those slip up in the meantime. You need 2 in a row here. In Full Sail, they're the ones trying to actually lock this thing down. Because last time we saw these buys go underway, Full Sail to get themselves the first, UCF answered back and was able to find a very successful second and then just really execute that off and find maybe, what, 2, 3 more. So can't let that happen again, because right here, this could be the end of the game off the back of it.
Time to jump.
Arrow sets up, flash out as well. Ghost will not have the ability to get a crossfire going, and Academy will get first blood, but it's an instantaneous frag back in Frosty's. Exactly the same thing on site. Even 3 versus 3, the plant is not exactly where Full Sail wanted it. It cannot hold off back towards Mound. They have to be a little bit more direct towards site than they would have liked. But the speed at which UCF Academy able to keep them back now can give them a chance. Only having these sheriffs and pistols in their pockets.
I'm out of here.
Zora within the dark cover, baiting out the possibility of a slide. Just a matter of destroying that util. Zeph's up high and will get spotted, but it's a little too late. This is a 1v1. Tapping to the spike. Bag can't spot Kairu in time, and there's no way that Vandal nor Kairu are losing that fight. 2 rounds differing between these 2 teams now.
Hey, that's all it really takes. I mean, just good for Full Sail to even get themselves a second round. Obviously, after struggling to secure it during that first half, but even then more so in the regard and the kind of weaponry they were dealing with, they found themselves an entire buy in this round following up. So, I mean, good luck to at least manage this and find yourself equilibrium on this third, but if you end up falling on this third, I mean, things just don't look good. I talked about UCF Academy and what they can do with just having that lead sitting at 8 rounds, and if they end up getting a pretty good start off the back of this spy here alone, then I mean, heck, it could be as good as gone, especially when you line up the bag. Those just are not the decisions, or better yet, the small mistakes that add up that we've talked about over the course of the series that can cost you everything.
These one-way smokes from your Omen are just, not only do they buy you a ton of time, but if you're going to disrespect those and step through them, it gives you enough time for those shots to be perfect. Try to step up to the top. There's a stack.
Flawless.
You basically pull a page out of Zeph's book. They did just the round prior on C-Site. It gives you 3 kills. Gives your team the chance now to go even further. We'll throw it back here again. You can get another highlight reel of just how good that last round turned out to be for UCF Academy, who not only needed this round win, they needed a whole lot more. There's that shrouded step. They wanted to go quickly off the back of that paint shell and that tether. And because of that, they pay the price, especially when you have them lining up so darn clean with that paranoia short-siding them. UCF Academy went away from double digits here, Dallas.
Yep, and they're looking at Nico as well. Only player that doesn't have to worry about not having a gun to work with is going to be that Omen.
Go.
Mizef kind of moving around, hoping that something comes their way
There.
to possibly have that domino effect of weapons. But seeing how it's going to go ahead and start off, which Delta has one too, so that should have been the last second buy, it seems. But able to go ahead and at least make work with that one. So good looks here so far. Able to go ahead and secure a second. Delta being the last in line, being a sentinel. Able to manage to clean out the first 2 kills, surprisingly enough. But
Spike
there's
planted.
still a lot of players that don't have guns. They're not really securable spots. You don't see anybody wanting to overextend or even put their life on the line to get a small little upgrade, which I think is big enough to take that risk. As it stands right now, Showstopper coming out, gets damage on a Cole, and, well, Ghost being there as well. 2 players from that one angle. This is just not going to work out well.
Last player standing.
Especially when Benzi's still sitting in cubby off towards default spike plants. It's just an unknown player in an unknown space, and you're peeking into a double crossfire. Even if you get those 2, why would Delta even peek that? They've got a nano swarm on spike. Time is already going to be a problem. They're just going to pop the swarm and fall back and play their life. Really well done by Full Sail. That B site is an enigma for a lot of rosters. They don't know if this is the right way to push it, if this is the right round to do it. Do they tease the A side or C side first, or they just go direct in towards the objective? This round, UCF Academy, the whole side gets flipped upside down. A lot of pressure early. You let Ghost get off site, but at the end of the day, it did not matter. There's that shell and tether combo, and Bag will no longer be a victim to it. They will not even attempt the shrouded step up onto stack. They will fall back to site. And it'll be a Full Sail push now onto the A side.
Yeah, I mean, possibly opening up this window or this door, you kind of want to feel around secret a little bit. I mean, we've seen a lot of successful B attempts coming through from UCF, at least during that first half, that you can't blame Full Sail for kind of giving the good old college try, especially how that last round went. But that was during an eco. This could be a completely different circumstance with completely different guns in hand. Already finding yourself a little bit of a trade. You don't have Delta here to kind of go ahead and clean house. Sure as heck do have Frosties, and that's the one that UCF is always thankful to have inside of a gunfight.
Sail have 2 players remaining, and they're quite split. It's not the best spot to be in. Delta, though, able to at least make waste with one of them. Benzi's in a top spot. Getting pressured early. This is odd.
One
He's in
enemy
Academy, but it will not matter.
Spike
Azura's
down.
watching that
C.
rotate. Spike's now under control, and Delta has to play a macro game for the next 30 seconds.
30 seconds left.
The time quickly running out against Azura. Relay bolt. It will stun, and the slide is clean.
Not a
We
chance.
joked and harped on Azura for that first half. Where were they? But this second half already, we're seeing some glimpses of where that neon kit can play very well, even if you're not on the attack.
Just got to give some isolated 1v1s, give some time to slow down, and just kind of make those shot calls mentally to really just follow up and execute the game plan. And that's exactly what happened there. Able to go ahead, hit those shots, look calm, consistent, and collected in that kind of situation, just like we saw in that map number 1. And that's going to be a problem here for Full Sail if we see that start to come underway. Biggest thing is you just have to kind of keep a leash on this guy. Let him know that you can extend out there a little bit. You can have your fun, but let's not get crazy here. But if there's any round to do it, it's going to be on one like this. You see the thrifty once more. Full Sail has a mountain up
find you.
3 inside of this series. Meanwhile, I believe we've only seen 1 from UCF thus far. They're not the ones in the circumstance where they're going to have the thrifty right now. They're just going to play the game.
Gyro's got that Bucky in the corner, deals with the toe.
Spike down B.
Process losing a
One
teammate.
enemy
Not the best
remaining.
angle because Bag and Ghost have a perfect crossfire to net the next 3. 4 players stepping directly into sight. Full Sail. Where was the impact on the attack we've seen? It feels like, honestly,
Where was
Dallas,
the util there? That was just dry swing after dry swing into B of all places where a smoke was placed.
it feels like they are lacking that Gecko really hard. They need to get the spike into sight. And the only person they have that can even replicate that Gecko wingman to have that safety net and keep your team in their post plant is Devour on the Yoru. And Devour went there, but Devour didn't have the spike.
Yeah, that's just... I mean, the Yoru's great, but, I mean, if you're running the Yoru, you still have to have a Gecko.
Cover going out.
I didn't talk about it much. I was hoping, I mean, obviously, we'd seen the comfort picks. We've seen the pocket picks come through with the Clove. I mean, but that's not really... That's a substitution from an Omen to a Clove. Where, I mean, even then, Omens play like Duelist now anyways. Cloves just plays into it. These are 2 drastically opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes around to proactivity in terms of the side.
Shots are just too clean from UCF Academy. Every single time a full serve player extends from a mainstay opening, UCF Academy find the frag needed to secure it, and it was almost always bag in that round. A 4K to net your team match in series point in the SCL for the first round of this LCQ. And Full Sail, a couple mistakes away, Dallas, for being sent out of this season for SEL, and they do not want that to be the case. They have to play flawless for the next 5. And if they don't, UCF Academy will move on and be very content with the success they found in map 1 and 3.
Yeah, just seeing how this thing is going, it's just unfortunate to see Full Sail. I mean, a team that we've seen just look so calm and collected, and even then during the earlier rounds of this entire map, looking very clean with their approaches. But looking not too hot when it comes around to the attacking side. I mean, when you're working on the defense and you're not really concerned about that, you're just playing for the utility. You know the players are locked in a location. You can kind of surround them and make the use of everything. But on the attacking side, I mean, there's so much that's going on and so many things that UCF can really throw at you. Being a Gecko, when you don't have one to counteract on your own, that you can get the wingman to get that plan off as you're in the middle of a gunfight. So it's just a little bit awkward of a situation. Even then, awkward plans coming down as well. So many players having to rotate to the middle of the map, and even then everybody from UCF opting to go through spawn because you don't have those angles covered. You know somebody could be over towards that B site. When is that player going to peek out? That's Delta. Going to push up, looking to get the wrap around, looking to catch anybody off guard, and it could be that Neon with the ultimate completely active. And there it is. Shots coming through. 2v5, 2v4. UCF dropping like flies, and the last one doesn't get a chance to shoot back. So good looks from Full Sail, keeping things alive, keeping the game going. We already surpassed the 13-7 for map 1. We're now looking at the possible 13-8 from map number 2. But considering how things have been going, I'm expecting at least maybe 1 or 2 more out of Full Sail before they really want to throw in the towel.
Yeah, especially with an eco round, or a weird round, I would say, for UCF Academy. They were looking at about 3 rifles initially and a shotgun and an SMG. They're going to go ahead and go 4 rifles, the Stinger instead. They still want to see if they can bring everything to the table. If they lose this, then it'll be a very big possible 10 there for Full Sail because they'll have to eco afterwards anyways. No matter what the case will be, pressure is on, and Full Sail with that absolutely gorgeous fake off to the C site in the very close exit out of it that came from your duelist. Academy will be very smart about how they use these kills, and they do it quite well. Frosties had a teammate of Azura nearby, but both of them caught on the B site rotate flank from Delta. That's the 2nd round in a row that Delta has played that B rotate in like it's Haven. They did it on Haven. Why wouldn't you expect it here on another 3 objective map like Lotus?
Yeah, this aggression just is not working out for UCF. I mean, considering what they've done so far, they've just been doing nothing but giving kills up, really. I mean, seeing how it's happened so far, Delta's always gotten the better end of these shots, always gotten the right opportunity, always hit everything too off the back of it. Then it's at a point where, honestly, if they don't account for this guy here soon, we're going to see UCF Academy in a really bad spot in a possible OT, because right now, Full Sail with the advantage, with the guns and the buy, I mean, they're only 3 rounds behind. They are closing up on you quickly. And next round is going to be almost, literally will be the only buy you have remaining inside the game. That the only real trump card you have to work with is going to be Frosty's and that Rolling Thunder. That is, if he has a round to really run off of.
There's really no chance to tally up another ultimate if you're not very good at getting Frosties enough ultimates. A single orb, dying the next round, this round, maybe the next. You're just trying to play smart, I guess, get a kill if possible. Anything to try to give you as much help as possible. There's a Twilight and Azura, though, playing quite well together off towards Mound. Damage from Azura, off to Zap, and then the finishing blow from Retoil. That now is a controller for Full Sail, and that's their way they separate the back of sight from the front of sight. There is no chance to do so anymore. A showstopper!
Spike down, C.
Doesn't even get the final blood. Azura was able to even swing forward and get a kill beforehand.
Cutting through.
That's good impact from UCF Academy in this defense. And now there's a pretty reputable chance now for the 2 remaining players to maybe eke out a frag or 2. Obviously, a Guardian in the hand for Bag. Something could go for Frosties. The utility is there at the very least. But if Kairu can pick up this kill first, all chances will be out the window as Kairu nets the Bag player behind with the Guardian and then swings secondary for Frosties. It will be Full Sail, but bit of a shocker to start it.
Yeah, keeping it rolling. I mean, UCF definitely keeping things interesting to start that round off, but I mean, everything past that point, those initial 2 bloods, and even then with the investment of the showstopper to kind of get to that point where you're securing a kill no matter what by any means necessary.
I mean, is that going to be a decision that really haunts him for the rest of this game? Because, I mean, keep in mind, this is the round you're the most concerned about. You had the man advantage. Sure, you didn't want to let things get out of control. And sure, you had a player who was really banged up, but they still ended up dropping in the process. You just play for a trade there and see what you can manage for the rest of it and lead that showstopper for a round like this. Take out some free guns, get yourself a man advantage, or even better yet, just play for the post where you can really just lock stuff down and scare these players off with their tails up between their legs. But speaking of ultimates, while the showstopper was invested, the dimensional drift is here to play.
Face your
Already getting
fear!
aggressive, just like Oscar, able to go ahead and find that blood, and it was Delta who's been really shutting down the past 2 or 3 rounds here for UCF. So to get that guy choked out, needing to find a secondary off the back of it, we'll say, oh, this is the round, quite frankly. There is no other point. This is your last round of the game, otherwise the OT will come in your direction, and it will haunt you.
Both players are stunned there. Shrouded steps
One
out.
enemy
Kyro gets
remaining.
away.
Oh my God.
That's one more. Ghost. 1v2. Post-plant scenario
Spike
now
planted.
guaranteed. They wanted to use the lockdown, but they held back. And now with a chance to Zep,
Dude,
they
no
almost
shot.
had a 1v1. But Zep somehow hits the wildest 3 shots they needed in the last round possible for UCF Academy to have a solid buy. And it could very well be OT unless UCF Academy pull off the impossible. With a couple of Vandals, a Guardian, and a Stinger. And little to no ults, but they can get those orbs. They can get a kill or 2 and have everything nearly except for that from the shadows to bring into this round.
2 ultimates, 3 ultimates, actually. I mean, ready to go. I mean, you look at Frosty's 2 off. The problem is you're on defense. These ult orbs, they have to be walking targets coming your direction. But, well, there's one of them. Accumulated. Thresh. I mean, good looks here. So you're not concerned about the neon too much in this scenario. But even then, I've been keeping my eyes on UCF, just saying, will they play for the retake? And they've been looking clean in it. That last round is when they really should have done that. Just sent it home. But they didn't wait for the lockdown. They didn't play off the man advantage. I mean, I was just at a loss, really, of what they were kind of going for in that situation. But if they fumble it here with the resources at hand, obviously a little bit of a lack of the guns, but you got big things that takes rounds and rounds to accumulate. You got to make it an all or nothing right here, right now.
So we'll clear out Cubby. No one in box. Sight's no guarantee either. There is one
Time for
smoke set up
retake.
towards
Yes.
Waterfall and 1 sent to counter, but you guys have sight. That's
slow.
3 now, direct into objective, and a flank has been set up as well with all of that correctly placed sentinel utility. UCF Academy will have to play a very
30
direct
seconds
approach
left.
in towards sight. Utility burn, trying to keep it back. As Zorro goes in for the slide, gets 1 before downing themselves out. But it's an even 3 versus 3, and UCF Academy have only been given
planted.
a whole lot more of a
Catch them.
shot than should have been off towards Waterfall. As the tether goes forward with nothing to find for it. Ghost trading a poor weapon for something better, but only 9 bullets in the barrel. They'll be forced to reload.
Oh, they have no
That's
idea
why the
about the
lockdown will
flank.
go even
I know they
further.
do.
Bring them down.
Ultimate on board. Toil even got the thrash earlier, Dallas, but went down before having the chance to use it. This is all that UCF Academy will have. Sight will be completely cleared, and 1 player will be detained,
my
and the other
God.
one's been killed. Delta all alone. Spike's not planted for.
Oh!
Rolling Thunder makes matters worse. Bag will stick
Last
this
player
to
standing.
The Rupture will take you down, and Benzie has no chance to get forward.
They got it.
UCF Academy send
Defenders
themselves
win.
out in miraculous fashion to send Full Sail out of this season of SCL.
That post plant, man, why is it not in a spot where they can cover it back towards the mound? I mean, it just feels like such a deep ball for a reason. Sure, it's risky to get down, but you have to consider the circumstances at hand, the situation that was given to you. You look at the top of your screen, you understand all those ultimates that are at play, and you have to know that these guys are going to work for that retake. Even then, I mean, I would have felt destroyed no matter what when it feels like the perfect alley-oop was handed to UCF to close out that game, and they just could not do it. But finally, they understood their role in this. Don't get aggressive. Don't lose things out. You saw those trades go 1 for 1. The lockdown was still available. The thrash had gone out to a certain degree, and the Rolling Thunder was still there to play with. That is, if anything, the most adamant response and most clear signs you could ever receive from the outlying variables of the world to say that this is a retake angle. Do not give this up. Otherwise, you deserve to lose that game 10 times over. But I mean, still, Full Sail made it a hell of an attempt, making it a 13-11, not bringing it nearly that overtime. But I mean, that's just a roll of the dice, man. I mean, we saw these small mistakes adding up over and over and over again over the course of this entire series. And here it culminates into showing that, well, this is what the result of every single map really should have been when both the teams play much better. And even then, earlier on in the match, when I said it looked like that UCF was starting to look a little bit lost, they at least ironed themselves out and understood that, I mean, we cannot let the season end like this.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the map problems on map 1. Haven is another 3 objective map, and Full Sail Armada just so many rounds that should have. Absolutely. If you looked at it through a microscope, they should have won the rounds, but it's just little mistakes that ultimately turn it in favor for UCF Academy. Right. UCF Academy, they absolutely deserve to lose a lot of those rounds on the second map of Ascent. They just didn't play the game that they were expecting to. And it's where we say good teams go to die. Anyone can beat anyone. And in that map, number 10 seeded Full Sail Armada takes down UCF Academy in decisive fashion with a 13-8 scoreline. You turn this around, though. We're saying, hey, it's another 3 objective map. This is where UCF Academy should do really well. And it looked a little troublesome at the beginning. UCF looked a little lost, but they came back and they dominated the rest of that first half, and they looked good to start the second. But they just weren't able to close the way they thought. And you see Full Sail Armada adapt, overcome, find the answers, see that they could just take down Azura, deny that closing space, and the rest of the utility just wasn't there for UCF Academy on these retakes. And when they finally start to piece it together, and Zeph is firing on all cylinders, Dallas, UCF Academy squeak a couple big impactful kills, throw down a lockdown, outplay you on utility, and take that final round. It doesn't matter how close it was. You lost. You didn't get the job done. And unfortunately, you have to buy out of this season for the SEL.
Right. I mean, obviously, playoffs is still going to be down the road. LCQ still riding and rolling here for the next couple of weeks. But unfortunately, seeing the seedings and how things are going, I mean, we're not going to be able to see Full Sail, which is super unfortunate considering the kind of pocket picks. We didn't get to highlight them too much to the team. And I'm definitely going to be putting them at a higher priority in the list when it comes around to next season, considering what this team is made of, seeing these kind of comfort picks that come out for them, and the fact that they can actually execute with them. Because we see a lot of teams come through, like they bring these weird, intricate kind of compositions, but even then to them, it wasn't that weird. They just understand the new agents that are at play. They understand how to work around them. And so long as they can flush out these small mistakes that I mentioned every here and there and get at least a better mental map of what's going on at hand, I think they could be an unstoppable force that's really just pushing the barrier and the limits for what this league can really do.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a matter of, which is a big difference. We see teams trying to transition into one agent off the pick and then maybe a couple agents here or there. And then that's the one player is truly the difference because it's them playing differently and the team doesn't really adjust around it. Full Sail adjusted every single time to what their agent selection was with those differing choices. This is a team that makes those changes, not an individual who has to make that change. It's glaringly obvious. And the results, unfortunately, didn't pan out the way they wanted, but you could still really tell they knew what they were doing. They were happy to do it. And they almost got away with it here against UCF Academy, but unfortunately, they couldn't get the job done. So congratulations to UCF Academy. You had a big, tough 3-game series to get through, and you managed to pull it out there right at the end, and you'll move on here in our LCQ, and we'll see you guys continue on for the SCL. And congratulations, Full Sail Armada, to even making it to this point, getting to that 10th seed, playing so darn well, and we're happy to have you here, and we'll hopefully see you again. Like Dallas said, keep our eye on you for that next semester. Don't go anywhere, though. We have more action from the SCL coming up next week with more Rocket League and Valorant action, but until then, we'll see you guys until the next show.